For every city you burn, I'm gonna build one high.
Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashrothi, the voice of New Eden, and I have no idea what date it is. July? It's July, right? July 17th, YC128. This is the Universe Show! Welcome, guys. I've been sitting here preparing for this for like 2 hours, and then I didn't even make sure that I knew the date. That's how we're doing today. How's it going, guys? I know it's been a while. We did our last show at the beginning of Vanguard. The playtest. This is now the final weekend of the Vanguard playtest. It has been a long time, like 2 weeks or whatever for me. My son had his birthday. I've been in a lot of pain and stuff. That's okay. That's fine. We're back today, and we have a lot to cover about the, all the stuff from the last couple of weeks, or the week or so, but also, how to get the most out of the Vanguard and Avalon playtest as we enter in its final weekend. How's it going, guys? Ragtag and everybody else. So we have patch notes to go over. We've got a new news to go over. We've got some other announcements and stuff. Before we get too deep into it, I do want to just cover, because some people like it, and it brought it up to me. There is actually a sale going on right now. 20% on Plex plus free Harada Oki skins. These are pretty cool skins. They've been released in a lot of other ways. This is obviously connected to Vanguard to a certain extent, which is actually an interesting question, because part of this whole Avalon storyline is the Vanguard are breaking free from the Deathless. So there's obviously some sort of strange shift in the balance of power going on within the Deathless Circle, in which of course the Harada Oki is part of them. And so I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I would look, the pessimist in me thinks that these are just the fancy skins that are associated with Deathless stuff, and so they went with that, not to read too much into it. But it is interesting, because it does bring us to ask the question of how much are the Harada Oki involved in Avalon? We don't really know much about that per se. What's up, Hobby? But all that said, I also want to give a bit of a caveat, because I did see some people getting excited about it. I too have gotten excited about skin releases, especially when it comes to connected to specific organizations. But historically, it hasn't necessarily been. I wouldn't read too much into it, is all I'm saying. That said, we have, so these Harada Oki skins do have special cool stuff that happens when you kill, warp, and dock, as well as speed and heat reactive attachments. They also have the little spiny bits on them, which is pretty cool. I don't think I have. Do I have any Harada Oki skins, actually? Let me double check. I should have probably checked this ahead of time. Hold on, I'm getting messages. Okay. Let me double check. I do not. I have none of the Harada Oki skins, so I can't show them off or do any tests or whatever with them, unfortunately. But they are pretty cool. We can look them up. We have, so the other thing about this is that, as I've said, these bundles are the best bundles that FC does most of the time. I mean, obviously, the big, the mastery bundles and stuff, especially when those go on sale, that's pretty good. But these, it's just 20% off on the Plex cost plus the additional skins is just kind of a no-brainer. When some of the other holiday skins, when they have the 2 price points or sales or whatever, those aren't always as good economically. But so we did get and we can also see in Hobo Leaks, which, by the way, for the record, so I actually think that doing a weekly Friday show might be the new paradigm. I haven't quite figured that out yet. I think that like doing a Friday show as like a weekly recap is like my one, because I've been doing like trying to do Tuesdays and Thursdays, and sometimes that gets disrupted. Sometimes there isn't something good on Tuesday or whatever, but like maybe doing like a Friday show as like the show might work out well, so that way we can kind of review the previous week as well as like give you guys insights as to what's coming up over the weekend. That said, where was I? Oh, to that end, what I've done is not in the links down below. I always like to put all of the references, all the video, or all of the like the stuff we're going to cover in the links down below. And I often get asked about HoboLeaks. HoboLeaks is this website where you can see all of the differences between different patches and everything that's been added at different times. But I always refer to it, and invariably somebody doesn't know what I'm talking about, or I didn't link it down below or something like that. But more importantly, I keep running into this problem, and this is a me thing. I'm trying to refer to something when I'm trying to find something that was like a while ago, you know, and I'm trying to see like, okay, well, what did it look like when it was first released? Because sometimes that's when you can find it, like the string, or, you know, there's a lot of times where I would love to find the HoboLeaks post or like the version that made the change that I'm hunting for. And so what I've done is I've actually posted all of the relevant HoboLeaks down below in this video, for the hopes that like if I ever want to go back and look at these Harada Oki skins, for example, or, you know, some other change or whatever, I no longer have to rely on Google, because you know, HoboLeaks, which is a great website, only goes so many different iterations back. So if I want a change that's like from years ago, I have to make sure that I can find that exact link. So now I've linked all of the HoboLeaks versions from the last week or so down below for my own reference and for your reference. I hope that's useful. But in the meantime, we can see that there is the Loki, Bifrost, Stiletto, Prowler, Claymore, Tempest, Ymir, and Nomad. I did see some people kind of excited because, you know, oh man, the Nomad is a hauling ship. Why would that have kill bonuses? Again, I wouldn't read too much into it. I think it's just, you know, they have this skin, and so they want to apply it to as many things as possible. And if it doesn't really work out, that's kind of fine-ish. But let's jump into Eve. And we can pull up the notepad. New note 07.17.128. And we can see now the Loki one is actually going to be pretty cool. What is the order of these, first of all? Where is it? Here it is. Okay, so the 1,000 plex bundle is the Stiletto. The 2,000 plex bundle includes the Bifrost. 3,000 is the Loki. 6,000 is the Claymore. 12,000 is the Tempest Fleet issue, and 20,000 is the Nomad and the Ymir. So the Nomad and the Ymir requires you buy the $520 pack. So that's pretty crazy, but I mean, it is what it is. Some people do buy that stuff. So let's go ahead and look at those real quick. The first one is, of course, the Stiletto. A good interceptor, very fast. And you can now see, so you can see the spikiness. It's kind of hard to tell. Maybe if I, yeah. So you can see the spikes up there. Is that working? Where is OBS? Yes, okay, good. You can't see my cursor. Great. So if I turn off the Harada Oki skin, you can see that those spikes disappear. So those are part of the skin. And then, of course, there's the extra effects. I don't know where the speed gauge is, per se, but it's supposedly there. It is a beautiful ship. Next is the Bifrost, which is the Command Destroyer. It is, again, so the Bifrost, as far as Command Destroyers it goes, pretty popular. I think the Stork is probably more popular. Command Destroyers are fun for booshing and for boosts. Maybe that is the speed? I don't know. Again, you can see the spikes. It's a beautiful skin. Timbre is an amazing skinner, which, by the way, Tamber has been posting as Caldari Prime Pony Club on Reddit a bunch of new stuff, including like character viewers and like new tools he's put on GitHub for Blender. I haven't looked too deep into those yet, but I'm very, very excited. So if you do anything involving content creation or 3D modeling or any of that sort of stuff, it might be worth checking that out. He's been cooking. The next one, though, is the one I think this is going to be the clear winner of them. Okay, so just to make sure that we understand, this is the $100 pack. The $100 Plex pack comes with the Loki, which, where is it? The reason why I think this is important is because T3 cruisers have relatively few skins compared to all the rest, and certainly not good ones. This might be the first one. Yeah, I think this is the first skin that has fancy stuff on it, like special effects for kills and stuff. So, and of course the Loki can be reconfigured, so I can't show you all of the configurations, but you can see that it still has the spikiness on it. I definitely think of all the Harada Oki skins, if I was going to get one of them, this would be the one I'd want, because again, I mean, most of the skins for Lokis are relatively, simple, and they don't go into Skinner. So people can't make custom skins for these at all. So that makes these, like, fancy skins even more fancy, if that makes sense. Next, though, we have the Claymore. The Claymore is the command ship. I do love command ships. Again, this one has lots of spikes. You've got spikes there, you've got spikes there, you've got spikes down there, you've got spikes at the bottom, you've got spikes at the top, you've got spikes in the back. I think this one might have the most spikes. Does this one have any other fancy skins? I mean, it has Zydrine Burn, which has a particle effect, but I don't see it has any... Yeah, I don't think it has any other skins that have, like, special status effects. And then the Tempest Fleet issue, also a dope ship. This one's a big winner, but remember, this is the $336 pack. So keep that in mind. Adjust your expectations accordingly. Also, I think that there might be ones for the simpler versions, but yeah, you got spikes. Oh man, you got big spikes on the side, all the way down the side. That's pretty punk. And of course, the Tempest has the Easter egg of it saying Clear Skies on the side. A great video series if you've never checked out Clear Skies 1 and 2 and 3. And then the final one, you get both the Ymir, which is the new command carrier, which already has big spikes on the front, but now it has spikes at the top and in the back there. And there is some on the bottom too. It's hard to see in all of this darkness, admittedly. I'm training for the ship for level 4 missions. I mean, that whole ship line is fantastic for level 4 missions. The Tech 1 version, the Tech 2 version, or the faction version, and of course the Vargur is dope. And then finally, the Nomad, which is the jump freighter. Probably going to be the hardest one to complete, like to show off stuff. But yeah, there it is. So those are the different skins, why you might want to get it. Again, like, it's one of those things, if you want the Plex already, then it's a good thing to pick up the Plex pack now, because it's 20% off. And then you can see the skins as just an extra thing that you can then sell for ISK or use yourself. But before we jump, so I want to talk, we are currently at the Rogue Edge construction site. So this was added in, I think, a couple days ago, and we're going to do the New Eden News coming up next, which is why I'm going to do the New Eden News first, so that way we can, I have a plan to run. Basically, today, I want to cover a bunch of stuff while sitting around, and so that way, if if we do get a Vanguard site, we can then go run and do that. But I wanted to do that over at my setup place, not necessarily here. So we're here to get the shot and to do the New Eden news, and then we'll head over to the other location and cover the other news, as well as watching the latest Nerds episode, and then see if any Vanguard stuff pops up while we're doing that. Tuesday or Wednesday for what? Oh, for when the construction site showed up. It was on the 14th. So it was 3 days ago, whatever that was. Tuesday, yeah. That makes sense. And again, I'm very sorry that I didn't stream much this last week or whatever. Like I said, my son had his birthday. That was really good. But then I've also been in a lot of pain and really did not feel good the last couple of days. But now I'm feeling better. Also, Palworld. Again, if you are interested in Palworld, we do have a server that people can play on. But that's not what we're here to talk about. What we're here to talk about is this. So let's go ahead and jump into this now. Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashrothi, your voice of New Eden, and this is your New Eden news for July 15th, YC128. First signs of campaign progress appears in New Eden. The first signs of military campaign progress has begun to appear in Caldari and Gallente space. The Caldari have begun construction of the state corridor, while the Federation's Operation Rogue Edge has begun to bear fruit. The Caldari state continues to outperform the other major factions with 12 campaign objectives completed so far. 2 new sites have sprung up in Ianakkamon, I think is what it is, and another in TTAC LIWS as a construction commences on their state corridor Stargate. The State Corridor Initiative is a bold Stargate construction project, but its completion is reliant on the Caldari's ability to expunge the Intaki Syndicate's influence over the Syndicate region. Executive General Haikatorigo has been leading the effort to root out the Syndicate. The state has been declared the organization a criminal activity when its occupation of the region began. The Intaki Assembly on Intaki Prime has raised concerns over the Caldari Navy's policing of the region. As Syndicate is a null security region outside of the reach of Concord's DED, there has been little oversight of the state's actions. Torigo has been quick to assure the public that the state is, quote, acting with honor and respect in this endeavor, end quote, adding that, quote, the Intaki are being manipulated. These concerns are Federation propaganda masked as humanitarianism, end quote. The Federation Navy's primary concern has been its own campaign. Vice Admiral Fiona Ravelli has praised Capsuleers for the Federation's progress on Operation Rogue Edge, telling members of the press that, quote, our citizens are what makes us this great democracy, the greatest democracy the cluster has ever seen. Despite the hordes of Sancha authoritarianism that slowed our early progress, we are now hot on the state's trail, all thanks to the people of this Federation, end quote. The Federation is following close behind the state with 10 objectives complete in their grand research project, Rogue Edge. Using road drone innovations to supercharge their industrial infrastructure has allowed the Gallente to begin work on a new Stargate construction site in Renan. Potential endpoints are being surveyed, and should the operation be successful, the Federation will have the industrial power needed to complete the longer route to Jafit. If not, the site in El may have been selected as a backup. The Mimitar Republic is not far behind the Federation, with 8 of its own objectives completed. Its plan to reclaim the planet currently known as Arzad-2 for the Starkmanir seems to be on course. The Amar Empire, however, is languishing in 4th place as only 5 objectives completed so far. There are concerns that the Empress's plans for economic reforms have failed to gain sufficient support from the Capsuleers of New Eden. If she cannot inspire greater support, then the project could become a cluster-wide embarrassment. News in brief. Provost Marshal Kasia Valkanir denies, quote, Aegis Nemesis funding conspiracies, condemning Vanguard collaborators. Amamake hosts Capsuleer Clash as hundreds celebrate anniversary of Dirt and Glitter's formation. Gallente Capsuleer loyalists sponsor Pioneer construction to boost support of Federation's campaign objectives. Freeport magnate Blue Melon scouting for new location. Capsuleers promote Essence region for consideration. Concord negotiations continue with no end in sight as major powers continue to clash. Upwell Consortium blames reports of quarterly drops in earnings on Vanguard raids. Tess Alliance claims new sovereignty, expanding into Pureblind. Doomsdays unleash massive destruction as brawl over Metanox in Ravaran escalates into Titan combat. SOCT denies Open Research Group's request for access to secrets of hyperspace tracking. Concord issues travel advisory for Uedama in response to spike encapsulators violence within system. And that is it for your new news. Now for some analysis. Obviously, this is the military campaigns. This is actually kind of a cool little thing that we didn't know, which is that like as the campaign progresses, they're going to like represent that progress over time. And as of right now, I guess so. Like they need to get 30 total. So the Gallente and the Caldari are technically 1/3 of the way complete with their project, and so they've gotten these new buildups. We see that here is the Caldari buildup, and if we look in game, we can see this is the Gallente buildup. Oh no, not that button. So this is the Gallente Stargate that they are making. Now, last time the Gallente tried to make a Stargate, didn't really go well for them, so they had to at the last minute redirect it from the place that they were pointing at in the war zone, which was Othanoon. Yeah, and then redirect that to Intaki. So here they are building this one, and as depending on whether or not the campaign is successful, this will either lead to those other two systems in order to shorten the distance between Dodixie and Intaki, which, to be fair, when this first started, I was very much poo-pooing on the idea that like shortening the distance between Dodixie and Intaki will mean anything to anybody. Ironically, because the military campaigns have made the bulwark systems, especially the military headquarters, more important than before, we've actually seen more people. I've had people longing for this corridor to be shortened. So I guess they have managed to construct the need for the very thing that they're trying to fix, which I guess is good. But yeah, so the one thing I am frustrated about all this is the fact that, obviously the relative progress that we have right now it almost doesn't matter because all of the tasks go all the way through the end. So theoretically speaking, all of the tasks could be finished in the last week if they wanted to, and it'd be just as easy as right now. And because the tasks are coming out one at a time, it's actually going to be easier the longer we go on to do tasks and to get them done. It's also really lame that like the Amar have actually been kind of screwed over the most when it comes to having easy tasks, rather hard tasks. And the Caldari have very much had a relatively easy time of it when it comes to how much progress or what they have to do in order to complete their tasks versus other people. And so calling on it as like a lack of interest, I mean, the Caldari didn't have to find 15,000 people to do missions, the Amar have kind of some of the harder tasks, and so I think that that's a big reason why they're lagging behind. But again, most of this doesn't matter until we have all of the tasks, right? And but that being said, that fact doesn't necessarily matter to the universe itself, right? Like to the empires, this has to be meaningful, and so yeah, to that end, they've gotten a third of the way through, and so the first stage of their production has begun. So in theory, if the Amar manage to finish 5 more tasks, then they will get the first stage of their, more advanced Amar station. And, to be honest, I have no idea what the Mimitar would get as their like partial progress. We're just going to have to see when and if that happens, more likely when. But so in top of this, so of course the Intaki Syndicate has been a big piece of all of this. We've covered this many times. You can go back and watch my stuff about Sylphie and Diabel and what's going on when it comes to the Caldari State and Intaki. I don't know if I have anything really more to say about that. I do. So this statement about Sancha. So for those of you who didn't know, like during the first like week or so, the first few days of the military campaigns, the main constellation, I think that Valor was part of. One of the main sections of like Gallente Highsec was under Sanche incursions, and they mentioned this during the previous New Eden news too. I strongly believe that the pirate insurgencies have been significantly more impactful on whether or not the Gallente were able to make progress. I don't know why FC hasn't really picked up on that and like used the interference of the different pirate groups in these different campaigns. Instead, they stuck with Sancha. Maybe they're interested in highlighting Sancha. Maybe they're just they do like to try to like make individual Sancha incursions important in the lore. So I'm not 100% sure. It was in Sync Liaison. Yeah, it was next to Botane. You're on YouTube and putting in ads that you can't skip and therefore missing whole chunks of what has been said on stream. Well, the nice thing about YouTube is that while it's live, you can just go back a few seconds, listen to it, and then skip back forward. There's usually at least some point where I'm not saying anything valuable. Or you can watch this edited. If you're watching this edited, thank you. And like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Yeah, this is just more or less a status update on where we're at when it comes to the military campaigns. And if we want to go look at it more specifically, we can close the browser here and come in here, go to military theaters of war. Why does it? Oh yeah, okay. 8, 12, 10, 8. So Amar has completed 3 tasks in 2 days. Yeah, according to this, they only had 5 objectives 2 days ago, and now they have 8, so they've now tied with the Mimitar, so there's that. As far as the campaigns go, we have... in the upcoming, we have more faction warfare plexes and 2 mining tasks, so in just under 2 days, there's going to be another mining task. Then in... Man, it's going to be interesting how much time we have, because I used to think that it was going to be like halfway through, we're going to have all of the tasks. But I don't know anymore, because like the tasks, some of these tasks are coming slower than others. But so far, 22 Amarian tasks have been released. So we have 73 days left in the thing. We started with like, what, 110? So it's been like 30. So it's been, let's say, a third of the time through the military campaign. And we have half of the Amar tasks up. We have half of the Caldari tasks up. We have less than half. We have we need 2 more tasks for the Gallente, and there's only 2 tasks upcoming, which is crazy. But we have a complete an agent mission in 17 hours from this recording, and then mining in 3 days. And then the Stark Manir, so the Mimitar is half. So all of the empires except for the Gallente have half of their tasks now available and visible. And so remember, like, I personally, if you see a task that looks like it's going to be completed soon, you definitely want to jump in on it if you can, just so you don't get locked out, because you need to get 20 of the tasks completed for yourself within the time allotted. You need to get your maximum contribution if you want to get the final rewards of the better titles and skins and stuff. So there's that. As far as the news in brief, we have this statement about Nemesis is funding conspiracies, condemning Vanguard collaborators. This is an interesting thing. So, like, this is what Avalon's all about, like the Avalon playtest that's currently going on when it comes to Vanguard. So effectively, the short of it is that, you know, the Vanguard have escaped from the Deathless, or have broken free from the Deathless and kind of have their own operation, which is Avalon, which is that's the name of their war barge. Which, by the way, if you do complete your Avalon track and you get that token, you get the same rewards no matter where you turn it in. But based on where you turn it in, you are influencing which team, which faction, which empire, which place the Vanguard will attempt to work with first, right? So if you want the Vanguard to work with a specific empire, make sure to turn your tokens and your trade-ins at that empire's locations. Otherwise, it's the same no matter what. But the point is that the entire playtest is surrounding around this idea that Aegis and Upwell are working on a new artificial intelligence robot monster thing that seems like they possibly are experimenting with ancient tech. I do want to do like a full breakdown and understanding of what it is, but I don't know if I have a firm enough understanding yet to do that. But basically, this code name of what Aegis's AI anti-Vanguard weapon is known as Nemesis. So that's what they're talking about now. There's this whole thing about how Aegis has been shunting funding from Edencom and whatnot into this Nemesis project, which I'm sure, like, Vanguard does reveal some more information about that, and this is gonna be a critical piece of the story as we go forward. There might be some people with top titles now. Yeah, you're right. We could have people. If you have done every single task with one of the empires, you could have a title now. Also, Dutch Gunner is here. 07 to you. He's been doing experimentations with some Drifter stuff, which we'll talk about when this is over. Amamake hosts Capsular Clash. Yet this is a player stuff. Dirt and Glitter is, of course, one of the older, mostly faction warfare, I think mostly Amar aligned groups, but very PvP focused. And of course, Amamake is like the place to have low sec brawls in the Mimitar, especially in the Mimitar Mimitar Amar Warzone. This one here is actually interesting because these different campaign projects. One of the things is build the X thing in the territory, or in one of the bulwark systems, right? So if we go in here, we can see Theaters of War, Galente. I'm pretty sure I finished mine, right? Oh, I haven't finished mine? Oh, I should go do that. Wait. Am I crazy? Wait. Oh, there it is. Whew. Man. All right. So yeah, I did finish it. Okay, great. So there is this task, build pioneers in Galente Bulwark. And we do need a whole bunch of people to do it. So, because you can only do 6, but we need 72,000 of them. So it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, or or like whatever you believe in. There are several projects. I know we have stuff available in Intaki. Intaki is the military headquarters, so that's the most obvious one for this. But if you want to, there are multiple projects for the Galente. You can reach out in Discord or whatever that are there to help you. So you just have to go there and build 6 pioneers. People have been moving BPCs and the minerals that are required to do it. You only have to put in the job. You don't even need to finish the job in order to get it. You do need to hit participate now before you do it in order to get credit for it. But it is one of those really simple tasks that anybody can do. Although in order to get 6 at one time, you'd obviously need to be Omega and have Industry 5, I think, or whatever the skill is that gives you extra lines. Either way, the point is, this is an easy task, and there has been honestly, the Galente have been more organized than almost anybody else when it comes to making this stuff happen. I do want to point out that there is this channel, the Mossonite Mining Union, which has been a big channel for coordination of Galente efforts. Which is why they've been able to stay in second place right behind the Caldari. Freeport Magnate Blue Melon scouting for a new location. Actually, now that I've realized this, I don't think I know. I have a guess of who he is. I just need to double check something real quick. Hold on. I do not. Oh, he's Snuff. Yeah, I don't know necessarily too much about the background information of that. Mass Production 5. Thank you. Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. You could just do all 6 in one job. You can get one BPC. if you have a BPC with 6 runs on it, you can just start one job with 6 runs and it counts even if you're an alpha. So you can do it even as an alpha. Hey. All right. Concord negotiations continue with no end in sight as major powers continue to clash. Of course, this is military campaigns. Even this military campaign is only going to be the setup for the future. Things are only going to get worse when it comes to the politics between the different empires, something tells me. But we're going to have to see how that plays out over time. Upwell Consortium blames reports of quarterly drops of earnings and Vanguard raids. Hey, did you know that Vanguard's going on right now, guys? Test Alliance claims new sovereignty, expanding into Pureblind. Somehow Test isn't dead yet. There's a big brawl. This is just players and Tombs and Titans were involved. SOCT denies open research groups a request for access and secrets of hyperspace tracking. There is this kind of SOCT is obviously, very tight in. They're kind of the last remnants of the Jove. And, they were doing a whole bunch of analysis of hyperspace telemetry when it comes to understanding the Drifter attacks, the Triglavian, the fighting between the Drifters and the Triglavians, and of course the Deathless and his fiddling. The Deathless is a ex SOCT member, so this, I feel like this is just another just a little, hey guys, the Drifter wormhole stuff isn't completely over yet, which, by the way, now is actually a good time to bring this up. Our very own good friend of the show, Dutch Gunner, who is in channel right now, he is one of the big people that does Arydanika Research Consortium sponsored Drifter Hive fleets. He's not Arydanika, but still associated with them. Anyway, in fact, we're going to see that in the Nerds video today, from my understanding. But what he's noticed is this thing that things have gone a little bit weird in the Drifter hives recently, which is that so the Drifters. One of the things the thing that makes Drifters so spooky is that they have a thing called the Doomsday. They have an overshield, so their shield starts out as blue, and then as soon as that shield gets taken down, it breaks all of locks and then picks one target and doomsdays that target and just does an insane amount of damage. Now, Dutch is one of the leading people who have pioneered this technique of being able to dodge those doomsdays. And so he is one of the major FCs that has done anti-drifter fleets in both the Drifter hives and also in Pochven very, very successfully. He literally wrote the book about it. But what he's noticed is he's been running a couple of Drifter hives in the last couple of weeks. But I don't remember when it started per se, but what he's reported now 2 different times is that the Drifters have stopped using Doomsdays. Even the big strong one, Hakanta Tyrannos, in the Drifter hives themselves, the final boss of the Drifter hive thing, is not doing the Doomsday. And we don't know why. We don't know if it seemed, I think he mentioned it was when they changed the way the wormholes worked. So now the wormholes don't, they're all inbound, I think it is. So that way you can't scan oh man. It was so you can't, yeah, the wormhole, all wormholes to the Drifter hives are now inbound, which means you have to scan them from the outside before they're visible on the inside. They did this to change it so that way Drifter hives didn't get used as a superhighway quite as much. But apparently when they did that, also the Drifters stopped doing Doomsdays, which is really interesting for a lot of different reasons. But we don't really know whether or not that was intentional or not. And so, yeah, in the description of some of the Drifters, especially the Drifters in Pochven, some of the Drifters, it says in the description whether or not the Drifter has a primary strike weapon or not, and that primary strike weapon is the Doomsday. So the point is, this is still a developing situation. I know that Dutch Gunner is supposed to be today. I thought right now, aren't you right? Oh no, in 30 minutes or whatever. So here soon, Dutch Gunner will be running more tests to see whether or not the Drifters have lost their Doomsday in both K-Space and potentially even Pochven. That's going to be very interesting to watch. I will update you guys as soon as we know more, either today or next week or whenever we know. This is one of the things that I don't even know if it's a bug or something that's worth reading into yet. It could go either way, but I don't necessarily want to read meaning into it until we know more. But all that said, the Drifter story, Deathless, SOCT, all that stuff is still there, and this note is just here to remind us of that. And then Concord issues travel advisory for Uedama in response to spike in capsular violence within the system. That's an interesting one. I wonder... I mean, Uedama is obviously one of the most famous choke points in New Eden that currently exists, especially in HiSec. You know, it's the major choke point between Jita and Dodixie, which also makes it basically the major choke point between Jita and everything else. You know, Uedama, very famous. If you want to go through Uedama safely, there's usually like Uedama Scout that helps that, and it's a whole thing. But like the idea that ganking there became scaled up enough that it's now getting a note on the New Eden News. I wonder what that actually means. How much of that? Yeah, it is the choke out of Caldari space. It's not the only way out of Caldari HiSec, but it is the only HiSec way out of Caldari HiSec. But my point is that like it's always a gank fest. So I wonder how much increase in ganking has happened in Uedama enough to get a travel advisory warning about it. Didn't I have somebody? No, it was Mike Azariah got ganked. Was that in Uedama? Hold on. Nope, it was in Savala, which is next door to Uedama. I knew it was Kuhn, so I figured it had a good chance of it being that. So yeah, I don't know. Just it's one of those things. Whenever you're going through Uedama, be safe. You know, it's gankers. I've always said, you know, getting mad at gankers doesn't do anything, especially in these kinds of situations where it's like a choke point. Just treat gankers like the weather. It's just a thing that you've got to account for. Use scouts, you know, use whatever strategies that you get that you're going to use in order to get through there safely. You know, plan accordingly. It's not about making sure that gankers can't gank. It's about making sure that gankers gank somebody else instead of you. Keep an eye on Z-Kill. Keep an eye on Uedama Watch. Use a scout. Use a webbing alt. You know, break your trips into multiple things. Be cheap, etc. If you're a newer player, if your ship is less than 100 million, if you're carrying on your ship less than 100 million with you, chances of being ganked is extremely slim, especially in Uedama. Uedama, it is Billy Goat's gruff out there. You want to make sure that you're just not the biggest goat walking past, because that's the one that they're going to gank. As long as there's, you know, if you're just a new player wandering around with your brand new battle cruiser for combat shit sites, you don't have anything to worry about. But that is it for your New Eden news and analysis for July 15th, YC128. Let me know what you guys think about military campaigns, how they are progressing, and also, you know, Vanguard. I think that Vanguard has been... I've heard mixed reviews from... Well, I mean, there's obviously been a lot of consternation or whatever on the EVE forums about Vanguard. It is an early playtest yet, but this whole connection between Vanguard and EVE Online through Avalon, through the Squalls and this event, I think has actually been pretty interesting. Let me know how much you've been participating in Avalon, and if there's anything else in the news that I've missed out on or that I didn't note, please make sure to let me know in the comments down below. If you're watching this live, hang tight. If you're watching the edited version of this, thank you so much for coming. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Share it with a friend, because that's how we get this stuff out there for more people to see. A more informed player base equals a better EVE Online. But I've been Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden. And I want to give a special shout out to my top tier supporters: 745 MPSI, Arydanika the Queen, Bad Boy Smooth, Evo Elite, Erladis, Elange, Flash Gordon, Grims, May, Malak Starfire, Malin, Mercuton, Mayak, Morcar, Michael, Neelam, LM1, Sheesh, Susuro, Thrans, and Rid. Thank you so much. And until next time, I've been Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden, and I'll see you in space. Whee! Okay. So, by the way, I did notice as we were going through it, I downloaded the previous Avalon video. but I haven't put out the new news from that yet. I literally forgot that I have the tool now to be able to edit it out via YouTube. So I'm going to try to get that done as soon as this stream is over. Because it does take like a day or two for that system to work its way through. So I couldn't do it right away, but I could do it now. So that video, the previous New Eden news, is going to be up. And honestly, I think I'm going to put it up ASAP because I forgot. So it's going to be up for everybody as soon as possible. This one, obviously, I'm going to try to edit it out, and then it'll be available for members a day ahead of time like normal. But obviously, you guys all just got to see it. So, hey, what's up, Stone Skin? Okay. Patch notes. So to go back to the 9th, we have apparently the Orca's drone hit points never, like, this was, I think this is just the text. Yeah. So the text of this was changed to update that, so the bonuses were always correct apparently, but it didn't say it was the correct thing. So whatever, that's cool. And then this is the new sites, like the Corridor Initiative. Oh, speaking of which, I need to start heading to my Vanguard waiting point. Then so then yesterday we saw, so NPCs found in moderate Navy 3s, elite Navy 5s, and basic 1 complexes. So those are the 3 new faction warfare sites that were added as part of the military campaign. So those are the ones that might only be available for the next 70 days or whatever, or like until the next military campaign, I should say. They now have a chance to chance to drop tier 2 and tier 3 boosters. Now, what they mean by that, I'm not 100% sure. I think I assume they mean agency boosters. They probably mean agency boosters. Somebody can tell me if I'm right or wrong about that, but I'm not 100% sure. Oh, Stone Skin's been getting them. And then there's also a smaller chance to drop Penumbral Shadow skins, which those are the skins that were released for Shadow Wars and now have been dropping in like the Bulwark hacking sites and stuff. They were like the faction boosters from the event. Oh, right, of course. So wait. The faction boosters from the event. Are you talking about like the Stokar booster? Or no. Are you talking about the boosters that you get for turning in? Right? There's like a turret one and all the event boosters that you could get for turn-ins. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. And then they added traits for the Opus and Dragoon yachts. If we go to Hobo Leaks, we can see that is from they get the Opus Dragoon yacht and the Opus Luxury yacht now get these text, but it didn't actually change anything. Again, this is just text, I think. Sorry, I see that there's a bunch of other stuff. These are other minor corrections, I guess. But we also have, added fighter specialization skills to the fighter mastery certificate. That's fine. Fixed skill requirements for the Ultra Tidal Entropic Disintegrator 2, needing level 1 instead of level 5, capital precursor weapon. So if you were relying on the fact that you didn't need to train your capital weapon to 5 in order to use the Tech 2, sorry, you now do. And fix several typos throughout the game. Yeah, little typos here and there. And that is it for patch notes. Next, Alliance Tournament 22. So the Alliance Tournament happens nowadays every year, which is great. Arena, so the Alliance Tournament is basically like the big, I like to say that EVE Online is very much often a conflict as war kind of environment where the idea of fairness isn't really a component to it, because anybody can bring friends, whatever. But this concept of like conflict as sport, more fair, more skill based, more, whatever, is something that gets demanded or asked for quite a bit by people in EVE Online, and the Alliance Tournament is kind of like the real big source for that. It is a very well structured thing. All of the ships and everything that needs to get used in the Alliance Tournament is real stuff. So all the stuff that gets blown up is all real stuff. But it does take place in space that is controlled by FC, and therefore people can't interfere with it. They've got all kinds of cool tools to show it off. They do big streams about it. There's prizes and rewards and blah blah blah. There's betting with channel points, etc. It's a big deal. But let's look into what this is for this year. Hey, Seventh Heaven 07, thank you for that. It's good to be back. Alliance leaders, fleet commanders, and organizers of alliances big and small, the time to gather your top fighters, big brain researchers, number crunching theory crafters, and spreadsheet wizards is fast approaching. The next season of competitive arena battles and broadcasts is just around the corner with the 22nd Alliance Tournament on the way. Do you consider yourself a bit of a gamer? Do you have what it takes to play under pressure? Do you consider yourself a meme machine, or do you just love spamming Mademoiselle to support Rote Capel? Then keep reading. Look, if you get lost in that, I don't get that inside joke either, so don't feel too bad. Alliance Tournament 22, registrations will open soon. This season's full list of key dates is available below. Once registration opens, leaders can gather their stalwart combatants to prepare for battle in up to 10. Battle it out in 10v10 in the arena for glory. Matches will feature on the Fenris Twitch channel and the EVE community cheering teams to victory. By the way, unrelated to this directly, but I want to rage out for just a second, because I just said that the Alliance Tournament will probably have rewards and drops and stuff. They're doing this whole, like this week, hold on. Oh, it's here. They're doing the summer guest streams on FCTV right now, right? So they have all these cool rewards, all these cool skins you can get, special times to get them and all this stuff. But here's the fucking problem with this. This system uses the Twitch drops system. And the problem with that is that the Twitch drop system is tied to the game that is being played. And so they put out all of these Twitch drop rewards, but it requires them to be playing EVE Online. And like, maybe not all of, I swear to God, because I watched one of the streams the entire day, but because they were streaming Vanguard instead of EVE Online, I got 0 credit for it. It is so frustrating. I get that they want like Vanguard to be its own thing now or whatever, but like, it made me so mad because like I almost missed one of the one I wanted. I think it was the Dragoon one. Because I watched it the entire day. It was the second to last day. Thankfully, I did get it the last day because they managed to go live again. But it's like I have to rely on specific, their channel going live, but then their channel needs to be playing EVE Online, not EVE Vanguard, in order for it to count for a lot of these things. And that has made me very, very frustrated. Sorry, that's all I have to say about that. Let's get back to the AT. The goal of today's article is to keep you informed. So the 14th of July, so backlog of Thunderdome invites starts. So that's now. The 23rd of July, so in like a week, we will get the main tournament rules announced, team registration opens, and Thunderdome gets prepared for testing. So as I said, the Alliance tournament itself takes place in Tranquility. So all of the losses are real. Everything like that is real. But to allow people to prepare for the Alliance tournament, they open up a test server called Thunderdome that is accessible only to the people that are doing the testing stuff. So that way they can like skirmish and like practice and whatnot. So that's what that is. I concur. Thank you. Talent application deadline is on the 28th of July. Team registration closes on the 30th of July. 31st is when the teams are announced. The 10th of August is the first look at the prize ships. The 17th of August is the preliminary roster lock and ad submission deadlines. There will be ads put up during the Alliance tournament in between rounds and stuff. There's always advertisements that are put up, and these are player-bailed advertisements. So if you have an alliance or a group or a program or a thing that you want to show off, there are rules about it, whatever, what you can put there. But just put it together and submit it. And if last I checked, they don't charge anything to get an ad in. As long as you send them a qualifying one, they'll throw it in the rotation, which is kind of why we see so many completely absurd ads. But they're great. In my opinion, the ads are some of the best parts of the Alliance tournament. So then on the 19th of August, the team rosters are announced. The 28th of August is the first weekend reminder and prize update. I guess that's like like when they clarify everything. Oh, I see. So then the next day after the 28th becomes the preliminary tournament broadcast weekend 1. So this actually starts earlier because they're doing, I'm assuming that, because they have like feeders, right? So they have like a qualifying round and then they have the finals. So, or like the real tournament. So 29th and 30th of August is going to be weekend 1. 5th and 6th is going to be weekend 2. 12th and 13th is going to be weekend 3 for the preliminary tournament. So this is going to be like less production, more just getting a whole bunch of teams to fight each other. So that way they can whittle it down to being the qualifying teams for the final or for the actual tournament. Then roster submission 2 opens on the 16th of September. The 2nd of October, post-preliminary roster lock closes and flagship submissions begin. Flagships are a special rule within it where basically there's a lot of restrictions on what can be on ships, but each team can have one flagship that is super cool, is able to break some of the rules about fancy modules on it, and if it's dead, it goes away completely. You only get one. Revised team rosters announced on the 5th of October, the 9th of October, flagship lock deadline, and the ad submission deadline for the main tournament. So you get to add, if you want to make an ad, you can either do it, if you do it by the 17th of August, then it can get in on the preliminary tournaments. And if you do it by the 9th of October, it can be in for the main tournament. And then on the 12th of October, all the flagships are announced. And then the 31st. So, wow. That's a choice. Halloween and All Saints Day is the Alliance Tournament 22 Finals broadcast. That's actually kind of wild. They are doing it in one weekend. They've tried to do that now because like this production is way higher. They fly in all of the commentators and everything. They have a whole studio. It is a big production deal. So they try to get it done in one weekend now, so that way they don't have to like keep them all there for an extra week. But they are giving up their Halloween to do this. So make sure to pay attention, check it out, maybe send them some candy. All right, talent recruitment. As a success we saw the plethora of incredible talent applying in 2025. We'll be opening applications once again, find experienced community members to join us in analytics and commentators to help break down the tournament content. They have a whole studio and they're all here and they need to find a way to replace Loru, I think. I'm joking. As we strive, are we sure Blooders aren't going to hijack stuff? I'll get to that in a second. As we strive to improve the viewing experience, we'll also be opening up applications for observers from the community to join us both on locations and this time also remotely. For those unfamiliar with the lingo, most commonly known in 3D in-game as 3D mouse and camera operators. Right. Okay. This is like people to try to get good camera shots. That's cool. I like that. Got a steady hand and an eye for a good shot. Know the differences between a Balgorn and a Barghest and a good play from a bad one. Show us some of your previous handiwork and you might be joining the broadcast staff. Warlock. The Warlock bat signal's out. The final broadcast this year will be in Nottingham, UK. Oh, so they're not flying him out to Iceland this time. So if you're interested in joining us, please make sure that you're available and free to travel between the 27th of October and 3rd of November. Community talent will be invited in a paid role to join FC staff to broadcast the event live. As the main tournament matches happen, we've created a form with all the details here. For the last few tournaments, a preseason registration method has been used with the individual team members responsible for requesting a tournament account and access to the Thunderdome server rather than the captain exclusively. For those unfamiliar with the Thunderdome server, it is our dedicated tournament server, separate from Tranquility, as different rules and additional publicly available tools to help teams practice competitive play with greater ease and security, encouraging more level playing field. The prelim tournament, the tournament to decide who gets to play in the main tournament, takes place on Thunderdome. Okay, so the preliminaries are on Thunderdome, so they're not real losses. While the main 18 matches take place in Tranquility, this means that any teams participating in the prelims tournament, aside from the entry team fee and the time commitment, won't incur any additional cost due to ship or module loss. But when it comes to the main tournament, teams will have to prepare for matches on Tranquility, or they'll be brought directly into the tournament system before being returned to their original station. That also means that we can see all of the losses on Zkill, etc., etc. Very cool stuff. The preseason and access cycle to Thunderdome has been established as the standard for our tournament. It will continue this year, so once the rules are published, Thunderdome access will open, and anyone interested in participating can be practicing there. This will allow individuals to begin tournament practice right from the moment the rules drop. If you have participated in prior tournaments, access can be easier. The login details you previously supplied when you requested access will work as before. You'll get instant access. Do not re-request access. So if you've ever done the tournament stuff, if you've been granted access to Thunderdome because of previous tournaments, it sounds like you just get to be back into it on day one. If you haven't ventured in a Thunderdome server before, you can request access via this form. This process isn't automatic. Invites are usually sent out once a week, and the first wave is set to go out later today. We'll also be monitoring the EVE Online Discord, as well as the hashtag Thunderdome invite status channel. Remember to poke your Alliance Executor to make sure that you register the team on time. Updates throughout the tournament can also be communicated. By the way, you can, even if your Alliance is not doing stuff, there's usually a freelancer program. I think that Dutch Gunner actually does fight in the tournament as a freelancer pretty often. So if you are interested in participating in Alliance tournament, like even if the rest of your Alliance doesn't really care, you can absolutely check it out. After the sponsorship and ad-ridden broadcast of Alliance Tournament 21, the IGC opted to take a more imperial sponsor this year. Rumors of the sponsorship deal was leaked not long after the conclusion of the recent Anger Games tournament, and IGC is proud to confirm that the sponsor of Alliance Tournament 22 will be the Amarr Empire. For now, you can confirm that the IGC's engineers have reached a small batch of Sentinel and Curse holes from the Amarr Empire and have been scoping out adaptations to be made to the ships. Be advised that on the 10th of August, they should have the design draft ready for wider publication. So, basically, the Alliance Tournament, one of the big things about the Alliance Tournament is that they introduce new, extremely powerful versions of ships, right? So, like, for instance, was it last year? There was the Python, which is the, like, really awesome Marshal, and then there's also a really awesome Enforcer. But, you know, there's all kinds of really awesome AT ships that you can check out. They're very, very, very strong, and there's, I think, only 50 of any given one of them based on the winners. There might be more now that they've changed the way the prizes give out, but it's usually about 50 of them, so they become pretty priceless stuff, too. Now, I have a theory, my tinfoil, since you all love my tinfoil is that just like with the Guristas taking it over from Concord, I suspect with the Sentinel, because we were thinking what could be really awesome about the Sentinel or the Curse, right? These are E-War platforms, the T2 E-War frigate, the T2 E-War recon ship, the more combat-oriented one of the Amarr. The Curse does not get seen on D-Scan. What could you possibly do to make the Curse or whatever like a really, really ballsy ship? And so my prediction, just because we haven't heard from it in a little while, my tinfoil, again, I don't know, but my tinfoil is that the Blood Raiders will end up actually hijacking this tournament potentially. And what we'll see is a Curse and a Sentinel that gets Blood Raider bonuses. So they can use Nosses and Newts, Nosses regardless of enemy capacitor level. That's my prediction. I don't know. But let me know what you guys think, though, in the comments below or in chat. One of the fun things about every Alliance tournament is seeing the exceptional player-created adverts. They're great opportunities to tell people who you are, what you do, what services you provide. Ad submission for this year's Alliance tournament is open as of today. You can find more details here. So the advertisements must be Eve-related. Sorry for the flashbang. Blah, blah, blah. It must be this specific resolution. It must be 30 to 60 frames per second, and it must be exactly 15 seconds long. So I'm not going to go over all the details, but those are the big ones that you need to know if you want to get into your head that you want to actually make one of these things. And then the format of Alliance Tournament 22 has had some rather substantial changes following feedback from the previous tournament. 10v10 team battles, where ships have specific point values, remain the core design of the tournament. One of the largest recurring requests from the previous tournament participants is the opportunity to play more matches, with teams facing more opponents than, before being knocked out of the tournament, as well as the request for additional best-of rounds. To accommodate this request, some switches have been made from the standard double elimination format to be a more conditional format. Interesting. In times of old, the Alliance tournament was a tournament where players could buy their way in rather than earn their way in through hardship of what used to be called the feeder tournament, but we're renaming it to the prelims going forward. One of the advantages of this system is that from the get-go, it was decided that the tournament will be a 64-team double elimination tournament, but there's no custom drawing to figure out how to match to an unknown number with an unknown one. There was no custom drawing to figure out how to match an unknown number with a known one. Below 64 teams would get a bye. Above that number, names would go into a draw, and those that didn't make it would have an entry fee returned. That's the old system. For the last few years, the Alliance tournament has seen around 50 teams participate, so this year we're going to play a flexible format. Swiss format tournaments increase the volume of tournament matches, providing teams with multiple additional opportunities for redemption and a way to balance team capabilities through matchmaking. For those unfamiliar with the Swiss format, match winners are matched against winners, ties against ties, and losers against losers. With that in consideration, we are governed by how many matches we can realistically fit within a broadcast day. So depending on the number of participants this year, we'll strive to reduce the time between matches and adjust between the Swiss or double elimination format, with a preference for a Swiss format if the volume of participants is similar to what we've seen across the last few years of tournaments. This in turn will also reduce the time between team submission deadline closure and the draw, so teams will know sooner who they'll be matched up against first and can find good practice partners sooner. This also means the second request back to for additional best of rounds can be provided by the live broadcast element of the Alliance tournament, whereby the final weekend is reduced to a top 32 team tournament to a top 16 tournament. So it went from a top 32 team to a top 16 team for the final weekend. The upside to this is that each match during the broadcast is an interleaved best of series. I don't know what that word means. Interleaved best of series games. For those curious about what this looks like and help see what these matches would be, the initial matching bracket schedule for that is here. Oh, God. Okay, cool. Lots of matches. The day of the finals will also offer a unique experience for anyone who wishes to attend the tournament broadcast in person. The studio in Nottingham, in the United Kingdom, where the broadcast is set to be transmitted from, offers a range of seating for attendees to watch. So this is going to be in front of a live studio audience? Okay, well, that's kind of cool. Whole event live alongside our talent and production team, along with food, drink, and various other activities throughout the day. More details, including where to get tickets, will be announced closer to the broadcasting date. As with previous Alliance tournaments, we will continue to strive to make a tournament diverse and fun to both play and watch, and emphasize pilot skill and team capabilities. We've been happy with the quality of the last few Alliance tournaments. The preliminary tournament allows teams to earn their way to the main tournament while keeping the cost and barrier of entry low to new groups. As such, we'll be maintaining this as the standard going forward. The price for admission will remain at 4,000 plex. Given the changes for the format of Alliance Tournament 22, teams that finish in position 1 through 4 will not receive direct entry into the final broadcast. They will, however, be able to... Oh, I see. So it used to be that the previous winners basically just got in for free. Given the changes to the format of the Alliance Tournament 22, teams that finished in positions 1 through 4 in the Alliance Tournament 21 will not receive direct entry into the final broadcast. They will, however, be able to enter the tournament free of charge. but will still be required to compete in the registration process to signal interest in participation. Man, so one of the top 4 teams could get eliminated in the pre-rounds. That's kind of cool. Watch for further details about the submission process. Here are some things that you can look forward to. Alliance Tournament 21. Many of the battleship end ships saw a decrease in value. Subsequently, battleship core comps became increasingly commonplace. A few adjustments have been made to address this. The maximum number of ships that a given hull that a team can field was adjusted from 4 to 3 in the Alliance Tournament 21. 3 will remain the maximum number with the exception of battleships, where 2 will be the maximum number. So you can't have more than 2 of any given battleship on the field. Their point value is also increased a small amount. It's greater than 21, but less than 20. All battleships will be allowed to fit a maximum of 1 armor plate and 2 shield extenders of any size. Or 2 shield extenders of any size. Navy ships, which are traditionally discounted for the sponsoring faction, will have battleships excluded from this range. Aww. Are they afraid of Armageddon Navy issues? I don't know. It should be fine. I don't know. The Amar prides itself on its passive armor-fit ships and its capabilities. A ship not conductive to this philosophy is the Cenotaph, which has been banned from the tournament. Oh. Way to admit that you don't know how to balance the Cenotaph. The Odysseus and recently released ore ships will also be banned. Oh, come on. The Odysseus is not going to be that big of a thing. The exploration boosts. I can't imagine that the Odysseus would be so amazing. I guess it has the resistance bonuses. You could make it like a hyper tanky command ship. I don't know, man. It's no damnation. But the recently released ore ships will also be banned. That's also very sad. Oh well. The recently added Navy destroyers will be available. Points for Kaldari ships discounted last year will be restored to levels compared to their peers. Several Amar ships will be discounted as part of this year's ship sponsoring deals. The Outrider is OP. That's true. Do you hear that, guys? Do you hear that? That's the sound of Spoon's heart breaking. The adaptation to last year's point inflation rule will be applied for every additional duplicate of a ship. Points will be added depending on the ship's specific hull point cost, varying in range depending on hull size. The avalanche ban system introduced in the best of series in the Anger games will be adopted for this tournament. Not sure 100% what that means. I'm assuming that doesn't mean that they're banning the avalanche. The Imperial Navy contribution to the creation of Zarmaz and recognize its capabilities as an incredible armor-repping platform. To rein that in somewhat, the only high-slot module allowed on the ship now is a single muted adaptive repair module. Well, but that's it. Okay, I guess. I don't know. The Zarmaz is dope. So you can only, like, the rest of the high slots have to be empty? That's really lame. The desire for the Alliance Tournament ships to feature in Alliance Tournament matches has been a reoccurring request. Several attempts have been made in previous tournaments to provide teams with an opportunity to use these ships, but at a cost, such a way that the teams shouldn't feel like they must have an AT ship to be competitive in the tournament. Additional changes have been made to this tournament to test new method for potentially using these ships. Full details will be in the main rules post. This actually does excite me. Not because, like, so on the one hand, yes, AT ships are extremely strong. But like, I've always loved how the presence of an AT ship fundamentally changes how the round goes. It's kind of like, you still get this with like the flagships, you know, but AT ships are often smaller and a little bit easier to swat compared to, you know, a big tanked out like Balgorn or whatever. So the thing about AT ships is like, well, if your opponent is fielding an AT ship and you kill that AT ship, that by itself is a victory. Like, you may not be able to, you know, if you're up against the Tuskers or one of the other like big name Alliance Tournament guys and they bring out one of their, like, their Whiplash or whatever, you may not be able to beat them, but if you dedicate all your effort to killing their AT ship, you just might be able to do that, which is its own kind of victory. I've always loved that aspect of the Alliance Tournament, and was very sad when they weren't allowed in the Alliance Tournament. So the idea that they could return is very exciting. Should anything change, check out the Discord. That is it for the AT. So we're going to be paying attention to that as time goes on. Next. All right, guys. Now for the topic that everybody has been asking me about today. The future of force projection with FC Okami. All right. Before we jump into this, let's talk a little bit about this. All right. So, first of all, what is force projection? Force projection is your ability to, especially as an organization, like as on a fleet level, as on a larger scale level, the ability to move ships from one place in the universe to another place in the universe quickly to respond to some sort of event, right? The ability to project your force outside of your normal zone of control. The most famous piece to all of this was the Phoebe jump fatigue changes, right? Prior to Phoebe, you would just need to, you could just jump. The only thing that was really restricting you was capacitor. With the jump fatigue, they made it so that every single time you jump, you had a cooldown before you could jump again, and a second cooldown that took much longer to cook off, that if you jumped again would increase the cooldown that you get between jumps. So you could jump once and then wait like 10 minutes and then jump again, wait 10 minutes, jump again. But if you have to jump a second time within that 10 minutes, suddenly your fatigue can begin to scale up like super fast. It used to be a lot worse. They've reined in how bad that can get, but like this is designed to limit how far capitals can project. And one of the biggest concerns about all of this has been the introduction of Ensilibix jump gates. Now, Ensilibix jump gates replaced the older jump bridges that you could have on POSs within nullsec systems. They kind of opened up that availability for more people, but Ensilibixes don't cause jump fatigue, and so they allow a certain amount of projection. You know, you can have people from here, and you know, if you have a correct chain of Ensilibixes, you can get to the other side of the cluster pretty easily, or at least you know, other side of the territory via these Ensilibixes, which makes it so that basically if anything big kicks off somewhere, anybody who's interested can get their shit together and get there fast, especially given like if tie-dye becomes involved, then it becomes worse and things snowball. So this tension of how to deal with force projection, how much to give people the capacity to move your force from one place to another quickly and efficiently, has been kind of this ongoing, one of the biggest struggles and pain points in nullsec balance forever, right? Yes, those are the green lines that you see in on the map. If you have access to Ensilibixes, you'll see the Ensilibix jump bridges on the map in game. Yeah, I also want to say before I get too deep into this that while I have been part of null blocks, I'm not a null block player. I don't think that should surprise anybody. So I know a lot of people want my hot takes about this, but I want to stress that my takes on this is from an outsider's perspective when it comes to nullsec. I neither use nor disrupt Ensilibixes in general. In fact, there's probably some rules about it that I'm not aware of. If I get anything wrong, please correct me. Okami got something wrong in this dev blog, so you know we're all flawed humans here. So just make sure to let me know if there's anything I miss or anything I get wrong. But the point here is that during FanFest, Okami mentioned that like one of the big things that they set up for the future, the one thing that they said so we have our expansions, but then we have major updates. Major updates come out pretty deep in the expansion and is like a follow-up on things. And a lot of big changes, especially things that CCP Okami is now popular for, have come from major updates, right? So while they were announcing Cradle of War, they said that the Cradle of War major update was going to be in September, and that would address Ensilibixes and Ensilibixes specifically, but this idea of force projection more broadly. And of course, two things happened. One, lots of rumors started to circulate about what exactly, and not just rumors, but like there were comments from FC members in Discords and stuff about ideas about what this could actually mean in practice. With specifically the main one that I remember is that jump fatigue would get worse as you get further away. They were going to add jump fatigue to Syllabixes, and it was going to get worse the further away it was from your main headquarters systems. That was kind of like what we kind of was kicking around as the idea for the last several months. But number two, of course, when Cradle of War came out and there wasn't jump fatigue changes or capital projection changes, everybody on Reddit who don't pay attention to anything freaked out about that. Was like, oh, where are my changes? The changes that they straight up said wasn't going to come until September. So here we are, pretty close. We're now about halfway from the release of Cradle of War to the major update, I say, without doing any math or checking to see if that's correct. But we now have a dev blog that really outlines and prepares people for what this is going to be. So again, this isn't coming until September. This is just to get us in the mentality of what this is going to be and allow nullsec people an opportunity to adjust to some of these changes. And what's funny is that one of the biggest changes in this isn't actually, well, we'll see. I'll say what I think is going to be the most impactful changes and why, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think too. So let's jump into it. Hello, folks. It's time for another Akami game design dev blog. This time we're going to focus on everyone's favorite topic, force projection. But before we go any further, I'd like to take a bit of time to think about and define force projection. This is important because there may be some people reading this who aren't privy to what projection is. Force projection is the combination of mobility, reach, and response time that determines how much military power a group can apply to a location outside of its immediate area of operations. Let me actually take a step back and explain kind of the practicality of this, okay? So during the reign of the Roke Wall, which was really like 2017 to 2020 or so, it wasn't directly tied to the reign of the Roke Wall, but we do see this rise of this concept known as the capital umbrella, right? Where nullsec groups become so big and so well organized that they have a fleet of forces ready to go, like a QRF force. So you could attack somebody within their zone of control, but as soon as you do, they would light a Sino and bring in their support and whack the guy that's doing the attacking, right? And so this was called the Capital Umbrella, and it offered a sense of safety and security for people that were doing stuff in nullsec in Empire space, right? Now, obviously, this is still pretty much a concept, but this is where a lot of like this force projection consideration comes from, right? Because if a Roke Wall gets tackled and it has to hit its panic, it only has a few minutes before that panic is over and it becomes vulnerable. Like that fight is only going to last, somewhere between 5 to 30 minutes, depending on how things play out. So you need to be able to get dudes there fast and easy. And things like Syllabixes and jump drives make it faster and easier to be able to project your force wherever. You don't have to have lots of forces on standby. You just have to have like one centralized force. And then everything within range of that is now safe because you can just commit your defense fleet to it in order to protect whatever is under attack, right? So that's one of the biggest reasons why force projection becomes a big deal. And like I said, in bigger fights, like originally when Phoebe was came out, the big problem was that basically, if any big fight ever started anywhere, eventually Pandemic Legion would show up, right? And relatively shortly. They had all kinds of tools to be able to get from one place to another, no matter where the one place and the other was. And so any given fight, especially capitals, if it lasted more than 10 to 20 minutes, Pandemic Legion is going to be a part of it. And, the Phoebe jump changes was one of the things that really kind of broke up Pandemic Legion, or like kind of took the wind out of their sails and made them into kind of a shadow of their former self. So, but, things like capital umbrellas, et cetera, still a big deal. And the introduction of Syllabixes, making it so you don't have jump fatigue, made it so that, it became very, very easy for a group. Like if you have a team here, even if something's like a long ways away. You can be like, jump, jump, jump with the Encelopixes, and you could be there in a very short period of time, especially with subcapital fleets. So this ends up becoming a problem. All right. Over the last few expansions, this has become the #1 most talked about issue in EVE Online. So far as it makes it up to the us via the CSM and various player feedback channels. That is a very telling statement, because it's like, of course, the CSM is going to be mostly focused on nullsec. I wouldn't actually necessarily say this has become the #1 talked about issue in EVE Online. I think that seagulling, honestly, if I had to guess anything, multi-boxing and seagulling are the #1 issues that people are talking about. But if you're only talking to the CSM, which are largely representative of null blocks, I could definitely see how force projection is one of those it is a very CSM coded issue, if that makes sense. Either way, why is force projection a problem? It's a problem because it means that these powerful groups can respond to activity in space outside of their operations too quickly, effectively intervening in smaller scale conflicts and making it nearly impossible for new groups to get any meaningful foothold in areas of space like nullsec. This leads to a number of hypothesized knock-on issue that, such as the primary means of survival for smaller groups is for them to join larger groups, which leads to more mega-scale organizations with monocultures and goals. So this is important to point out, because what they're calling out here is that the real issue is that these changes make people have to cluster into the bigger groups rather than have smaller groups, right? You would expect that you would have these big groups that have these critical places, but then there's these places that are not interesting enough and too out of the way for bigger groups to be able to worry about. And so that becomes a place that smaller groups can take hold in, because the bigger groups, it's not worth the effort of the bigger groups to stomp them out. But when it's easy to go, then like, sure, might as well knock them out, right? It lowers the friction of the bigger groups stomping on the smaller groups, which makes it so the smaller groups get hurt. So the major goal here is to make it for smaller group viability within nullsec, okay? That's something to keep in mind when we're looking at this balance change. Here is a map of Encelopix coverages as of July 17th, 2026. So we can see, I wish that they had used different colors, but you can see like all of these links are jump bridges that the owners can use, but normal people probably can't, right? We firmly believe in a healthy and thriving EVE as one with newer and smaller groups have an opportunity to be competitive, and that is not the case today. We also understand that there are many factors that lead to force projection, everything from how alphas are used to wormholes, filaments, and Encelopix jump networks. I don't like this one at all, because like, never mind. We're not going to delve into the whole alphas are a problem thing right now. We've already talked about that before, and he's not addressing it right now, but oof. In a coming update, we want to begin addressing long-range force projection via Encelopix jump networks first, because we have a few solutions at hand that we're ready to try and believe that this will have a fairly significant impact on the issue. Why are we doing this? In a recent conversation with CSM20, they asked if I would be clear about what our goals and intentions of force projection changes are, and I will do my best here. Yeah, so like I said, they announced that they were going to make these changes, but then they didn't get any details about it, and that has caused a lot of stress within groups, because nullsec groups are big. It takes a long time for them to adjust to things, and they're very much worried about what the future will bring. And so, yeah, as soon as you mention that there's going to be this big change, they're going to want to know the details as soon as possible, so that way they can like be ready for them. Making space for smaller and newer groups to flourish is absolutely one of our primary goals. So that means that we need to create additional logistics challenges and pressures for larger organizations. Remember, if you're in a coalition, you're part of a larger group and not considered a small group. Good point, Malak. They must mentally prepare and logistically prepare. Like, unironically, like, you got to remember, Encelopixes are a big consideration, right? So if the way that they work changes, then your network might need to change, in the same way that like Equinox really shook up what systems were valuable and what systems weren't. Like, this may be one of those things that like some people, there's going to be people like there are logistics leaders within these coalitions and alliances that literally map out where the Encelopixes are and manage these sorts of things. So yeah, this does, like, you do not want to like give people a week of warning before making significant changes to Encelopixes. Unless you do. If your goal is to create chaos, then absolutely. But that's not always their goal. All right. In addition to this, I see long-range force projection via Ensyllabix gates as a solved systemic puzzle. EVE Online is at its pinnacle when you haven't fully figured out the universe's logistical puzzles, and it's time for this one to get a refresher. By the way, I want to take an aside here and point out a lot of people, anytime something new comes out, people complain that FC doesn't explain it well enough. Everything from the new Epic arc to the way that military campaigns work, etc., etc. And I've complained even about things not being presented to players or whatever. And I like to think that my feedback about that is a bit more nuanced. But the idea here is like the reason why FC doesn't explain things when they first come out is because the process of figuring them out is often the exciting part, right? We're supposed to figure them out. And so once something becomes solved and then later standardized, then it becomes stale, stagnant, and boring. And so it becomes prime tool for shaking things up. Because the more something is established, the more something is relied upon, then the more destabilizing it, even in small ways, can create big effects in the overall scheme of things. And I actually think that this change has a very cool piece to this that is very unpopular with people, but I think actually goes after a much larger issue than just force projection. But that we'll get there in a second. Dracarys is one alliance I'm watching to see if they'll break from Imperium. All right. We've always believed that it's super cool that large corporations and alliances are able to overcome the challenges that the universe has thrown at them, but there should be a certain amount of logistical friction needed to maintain a large empire. In the way Ensyllabixes are currently implemented, we believe that they're too strong and not applying enough attention to interesting and meaningful ways, and that can be overcome, but provide unique opportunities and logistical puzzles, and opportunities for expansion, play, and counterplay. We recognize that people use Ensyllabixes for other things besides projecting force, such as navigating to the day-to-day jobs required to live in nullsec and maintaining an empire. With that in mind, we also have a goal of ensuring we don't impact the day-to-day as much as possible while placing tension on long-range projection. This also represents a paradigm shift in organizational scale. That's the big one. Force is a product of scale, and this will now begin to shift groups towards potentially optimal sizes, both on the small and large scale, and we are intentional in this decision. I think that this is the lead that's being buried. We're eager to watch and see how groups acclimate and solve for these changes. As it stands, Ensyllabixes are too powerful, and we want to see a fundamental and dramatic paradigm shift in how they are used, with strong reduction in their capabilities from what they are in their current implementation. Why now? EVE Online is in their best states when it's been in EVE is in one of the best states it's been in a while. I actually agree. The sheer number of ships that are viable, the sheer number of strategies that are viable, the sheer number of groups that are out there is probably better than it ever has been. And that is true. A lot of the problems that we have today are actually suffering from success. Things like seagulling and multi-boxing only really becomes an issue when those things become popular, right? The acts of faction warfare didn't actually become that much, like the Plex fighting didn't become that. It's always been really good, but now it's popular. And because it's popular, that has introduced new problems within the faction warfare world. But it still means that it's more popular, right? You no longer get people being quite as dismissive of faction warfare as they were back in 2015, even though 2015 was arguably the best time to be in faction warfare. Anywho, we're getting regular balance updates with inputs from our players in the CSM. We're hitting a confident stride in our ability to deliver regular, interesting expansions and new ships. We're seeing the community thrive. And while the number of issues persist, we are beginning to knock off one by one. Force projection continues to rise to the top, and it's clear that we can't keep only making small tuning adjustments. It's time for us to commit to a bigger change. I do want to, at this point, acknowledge the fact that the wormholers are off there on the side going, hey, wait a minute, what? Like, it's so funny how long wormholers have been teased that they're going to be next and then just keep being put off. Either way. It is also time for us to be bold, and we're ready to commit to a bold solution. If we wait to try to solve every item in force projection checklist all at once, then nothing will ever happen. Perfect is the enemy of the good. We have a cool idea that we back and we're ready to iterate on, and now is the time to do it. We're eager to commit to something that will have more impact on the topology of New Eden test organizational logistics, and put some new tension on the overall layout of the universe, leading to new opportunities, shakeups, wars, and alliances. How do we plan on doing it? Why not just delete incils and start over? Believe me, it's super tempting. I've honestly thought about going this route a few times, but that seems like the easy way out. That's pretty funny. The reality is that ANSYs are a cool idea, but they belong, and they belong in the fantasy of Eve. It's also something that you've all become quite used to, and I think that completely removing them isn't the way to go. I also agree that that's not... I agree with this too, because the reliance on Stargates is one thing, but the ability to have Stargates within your space that you don't, like, that other enemies cannot access is so critical. Even from, like, my first time in nullsec back in 2010 or whatever, I remember there's this whole thing where, like, the enemy we would bubble camp the gates, so the hostile forces, as they tried to come into our little pocket, they would have to travel through these through these bubble camped gates, and it would slow them down. But we traveled between jump bridges between those systems, so we didn't have to go through the bubbled gate, and so we had this home field advantage when it came to maneuverability that they didn't have. And that, like, from the very earliest days, sold me on this idea. So, like, yeah, I agree. And obviously there's been a lot of changes since then. The first one was, of course, originally you could have as many jump bridges as you want to within a system. Then they made it so you could only have one. That was a big deal for people to have to compensate and adjust to, but they did. And that's always been the case when it comes to syllabixes. So, anyway, it's also something that you've become quite used to, and so completely removing them isn't the way to go. So let's take a harder path. Let's take a look at the idea that I'm about to share with you started and how it's morphed and what we're about to do. It all started with jump fatigue. Remember, originally, I think it was Okami said that it was going to be based on changing how jump fatigue works. We started with an initial proposal by the CSM over the last few cycles that used jump fatigue. It wasn't a bad idea. Basically, the idea is that fatigue would be applied as you jump through incils, and the amount applied would increase the further you jumped from your SOV capital. What I liked about it, that's what he said in the Discord too. What I liked about it is that it leans on an existing mechanism that's fairly straightforward for us to implement and touches on some of the goals around putting logistics tension on large organizations centered around capitals. However, this is not my ideal solution for a few reasons. First of all, I personally don't love gameplay systems that prevent individuals from taking actions, like stun locking, and jump fatigue somewhat falls into this category for me. It's true. The problem with jump fatigue is, well, he's about to go into it. Actually, kind of. Another reason this is not my favorite is that the user's experience around this is very difficult. Since fatigue is calculated differently for every individual based on skills, that could mean many different members of a fleet could end up with different fatigue timers after every jump. Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. There are no skills that impact jump fatigue right now in the game. And this is part of the thing that, like, I've already seen people talk is correct. I've already seen people mentioning this on Reddit. I've seen people mentioning things elsewhere. It is a very unfortunate thing that Okami put into here, because people are going to just assume that, like, there is no good solution to force projection. And by that, I mean, like, there is no solution. There is no version of this dev blog that could possibly have been posted in which Reddit was like, yay, and everybody at, like, all of the null blocks was like, FC listened, hell yeah, this is the correct choice. Thank you so much, FC, for doing this. Like, no solution would have gotten that response. Deleting incils, deleting jump fatigue, adding jump fatigue, making every ship be able to jump themselves, whatever. There is no such thing as a solution that would be the good solution for everybody. That would be the popular solution. There is, for two reasons. One, what's good for one person is bad for another. And two, FC's job is to give us challenges, not solutions. I mean, they give us the tools to create solutions, but the point is that FC is mostly in the game of creating challenges for us. And so, by definition, whatever they're going to do to try to balance this is going to be about adding friction, adding tension, adding some sort of, like, component to it that will not be liked by some people. Okay, so you already know that the null blocks are going to be critical of this. No null block, like, the null blocks are not going to be happy about this, regardless of the solution. That said, at least like verbally, vocally, and openly, right? That said, given that every little statement in this dev blog that gives a weakness to the position is going to be ridiculed. And I've already seen a lot of people calling out this line as a way of showing that FC doesn't know what they're talking about, right? They don't know their own game mechanics because this isn't a game mechanic. Init Leader says it's probably healthy for a game to reduce. There will be people that agree with it too. I'm not saying that no one likes the solution. My point is that there's no such thing as a solution to nullsec balance that people will broadly like, because it's going to be bad for some people, and those people are going to be most inclined to be vocal about it. You get what I'm saying? They're just mad because they don't want their power threatened. Kind of. But my point is that this line is an unfortunate one. I have two guesses as to why this sentence made it into the Draco, you're the guy that's doing the Pioneer stuff, right? Hold on, time out. Draco, you're the one doing the Pioneer stuff in for the Glente, right? I guess I'll address that when so I have two theories as to where this sentence came from that might explain it. One, okay. Yeah, but you're like one of the main dudes that are making the Pioneer building for the Glente military campaign. If somebody's interested in building the Pioneers for the Glente, who do they get in touch with? How do they get involved in because we talked about this during this, because you guys got Galente Capsuleer Loyalist sponsored Pioneer Construction. That's you, right, Draco? Am I wrong? That's you, right, Draco? You got this. This is your note in the news, if I remember correctly. Oh, you're part of the group that's doing it? Okay, well, either of you that's doing it, please post right now the instructions so that way we can say it to everybody. How do people access this program? Do you just go to Intaki and start yelling at people? Are their contracts up? Like, what if people are interested in doing this, what is the instructions? I want to make sure to give you guys a platform to say it on the stream. Head to Gisler or Intaki, and then what? Is there a group? Is there an alliance that's working on it more, or like? I assume the minerals are going to be on the market. What about the BPCs? Anywho, while that's going on, we will go back to the force projection. Okay, so I think one of two things is happening. Well, actually, I really think, I suspect that they have built in the capability for skills to reduce jump fatigue. Even though there is no skills that currently does it, in the back end, that capability might be there. And so Okami, being a very high level thinking about this and talking to a lot of people about it, probably has been told that the skills could be one of the options. And I suspect actually more clearly that this is an artifact from this original suggestion, right? Because the original proposal was that jump fatigue was going to extend out based on how far away you are from the headquarters. And so my bet is that as part of that plan, they did plan to have a skill that influenced this, but that made it more complicated. But now that they've moved on from that plan, that idea and that reason to not do it remained in Okami's head, and so made it into the dev blog. Although he's more new to the group, so maybe he doesn't know that as much, but like, I do find it very unfortunate. I'm just going to say unfortunate that he gets this fact just explicitly wrong. So the Gisler Chemical Factory. Who's we, though? What group do they reach out to? That's my theory about that, but it is an unfortunate line. Now people are going to clown on it for it, but either way. Imagine trying to manage where your fleet could jump and needing to know where every member's fatigue was at each time. But this does actually bring up a bigger point, which is that if Ensilabics jump... Oh. Yeah, there's some historical precedent in learning from fatigue as well. Jump fatigue was first introduced in Phoebe. We have remembered and learned a lot from that time. It did put some attention on projection, but it didn't solve for it. We have found it overly punishing and generally prevented people from moving around in space because they didn't want to miss the next fleet. That is actually the bigger one, right? If any use of Ensilabics could just give you a minor amount of fatigue, then it does mean that the chances that when you're putting together a fleet at any given time, different players have small residual amounts of fatigue left on them, that could very well be. And so that is a bigger issue. If jump fatigue was like a more common thing, because everybody who uses Ensilabics is, oh, I just did my PI today between these two systems, and so now I have 30 more minutes before my second timer is up. So, I can't participate in the fleet, like I could definitely see that as being a problem, but the skills thing is fine. For Gallente Victory, join the the public channel. Wait, the Gallente Victory channel? Is it the wait, so is there another channel for this? Because there's the Mossonite Mining Union. So there's a whole separate Gallente Victory channel that isn't the Mossonite Mining Union? You kind of moved? I can't spell? There should probably be a link in the Mossonite channel for the Gallente Victory channel then, right? I can't join a Gallente Victory channel. What is the Gallente Victory channel? This is saying does not exist. I'm pretty sure I have edit permissions in the Mossonite Mining Union. I could theoretically change the MOTD to add it. Oh. Hey. Just throw me in the public channel so that way I can tell people about it, and that's it. Either way. Back to what we were talking about. Oh, for Gallente Victory. That's the public channel? Got it. Okay, great. So if you are wanting to help out with the Gallente, you should join the channel for Gallente Victory. 3 words, spaces, everything spelled normally. Got a lot of good information in it too. Sweet. Sorry. A little bit of an aside. We mentioned it earlier, and I just wanted to make sure that people had like really good answers. Because, we want the Gallente to do well. All right. Also, thank you guys so much for putting that stuff together. It's very cool of you. All right. Back to what we were talking about. So, Ensilabics capacitor. Every structure in Eve has a capacitor, but it's not something we really expose or use mechanically very strongly at the moment. But we thought, why not lean into another systemic element that exists, but is already broadly understood and used in Eve Online? Our current design is that when a ship jumps through an Ensilabics gate, it uses some of the Ensilabics' capacitor. The bigger and more powerful a ship is, the more capacitor it uses. When the capacitor hits 0, no ships can jump through it. Replenishes has enough capacitor to facilitate the jump of the ship, or until it replenishes and has enough capacitor to facilitate the jump of the ship. The Ensilabics' capacitor replenishes over time as it does on a ship. By saying as it does on the ship, I wonder if that means that its capacitor recharge will be maxed at 25 to 30%. Will there be this weird thing where it's like you have to pay attention to the Ensilabics' capacitor and try to keep it, like, you don't want to wipe it completely out. You want to keep it as close to peak recharge as possible. I think that could be pretty fun and cool, but we'll see if they go with that. It's interesting because it removes the burden of managing fatigue off a large group of individuals and instead moves the logistical thinking to a single point, the Ensilibix capacitor itself. Additionally, the solution offers a vast design space for systemic improvements, play, and counterplay. For example, since it is a soft structure, we could introduce new types of upgrades that could impact the Ensilibix's cap, as in recharge rates, totals, etc. We have the ability to explore more traditional play and counterplay, such as cap draining, as an alternative strategy for taking down structures. They don't mention it here, but neuting Ensilibix would be kind of fun. You can already shoot it to shut it offline. But the question I have, and a lot of people have, I've already had it brought to me, is can you cap up the Ensilibix? Will you want to have like a battery of like 4 Augurers or whatever just sitting there capping up the Ensilibixes the whole time, so that way your fleet can keep jumping through? And honestly, I'm here for that. We're introducing a new attribute to balance this cost so we don't impact the entire ecosystem if we make changes to it, such as if we decided to use mass and needed to rebalance ship mass. Augs, they would just park a fax. I mean, yeah, you could do it. I mean, you could do it with fax too. I'm just saying, like, one multi-boxer, because that's the real problem, right? One multi-boxer is just going to log in like 10 Augurers or whatever and just keep it running there and not pay attention to it. It's not a capital. You're right. Some people are going to use faxes too. I just used, you know, more disposable solution. Okay. I doubt it's the same cap. Well, again, like, it does not suggest that they could, but if you can drain it, you should be able to cap it up too. That's all I'm saying. We also want to both affect organizational scale based on solved capital and make sure that we're not impacting the immediate day-to-day of the majority of the line members. In this design, we'll be adding zones that affect the Ensilibix capture fare costs when you jump through it. Zone 1 will be centered around the solved capital and reduce the fare cost to 0, meaning that ships can fly freely around the capital regions. It will be 0 to 5 light years from the solved's capital space. After that, this is what I'm talking about, right? Like, there already were capitals and whatnot, but like the fact that what is within 5 light years of your capital system now becomes like your home turf, where you're going to want a lot of your like day-to-day moving around to happen. That may cause some alliances to rethink how they build up their infrastructure, right? That's why these sorts of things need to be talked about early instead of just dropped a week before the patches or something. After that, there'll be 4 additional zones, 1 through 5, that radiate outwards and increase the fare cost of Ensilibix gates based on distance. This specific system element exists to solve for long-range projection and give us effective tuning levers that we can adjust in the future or expand on in interesting and meaningful ways. Okay. It does mean that the map should probably show light year distance a lot better. Separate travel design spaces. Time to send a frig with a NOS to empty their gate cap. I mean, yeah, a newt would probably be better, but yeah. Also, probably not a frigate. It's probably going to have a lot of cap, whatever it is. It's probably going to have a lot of cap. We are making this change because they have their own traversal. Oh, hold on. We're also going to make capitals and up ships no longer permitted to jump through Ensilibix gates. They already have their own jump gates. It used to be the caps couldn't jump through gates, stargates at all. So this is just kind of a balance in that direction. We are making this change because they have their own traversal mechanisms and powers, and it's more neatly divides the responsibilities and impacts of each design space and allows for us to tune them separately and build features around them more cleanly in the future. As this elevates a more important of capital jump systems and strategic play, I want to bet that they will actually introduce a skill to reduce jump fatigue. I think that might be in the design, and that might be why that comment came from. And this change makes it so that that's only really going to be a capital skill and not just for everybody. I mean, obviously, if you bridge through a Titan, I think that still causes jump fatigue. But I think that that could be one of the things that this statement is kind of hinting towards. As this elevates the importance of capital jump systems and strategic play, we're also going to reduce the number of anchorable Sinojammers in a system from 3 to 1. This, I thought, when I read it, was going to be the biggest part of this change. Having 3 Sinojammers in a system has been an incredibly contentious point of order since the flex structures have been introduced. Because the problem is that you can have all three of them on or in, anchored, but only one of them online. And so then if somebody takes that one down, you can basically flip up the next one. And so like it becomes very, very difficult to get through a Sinojam system. No, yeah, this, I didn't realize that you could have three. This was one of the things that was talked about, like when Test and all them were complaining about why they couldn't pierce in during World War B2. This idea of having redundant Sinojammers that could just be online in the event that one Sinojammer goes down was one of the biggest things that they harped on, that made it so that we don't, this is terrible, etc., etc. So I think that this is a good change, and I think that it's I thought that this was going to be the most low-key, the most impactful change in this whole thing, but bigger ones to come. We'll put this importance on the placement of jammers and shift advantage away from the defenders, elevating the importance of capital ship jump systems being used in warfare. The questions of ACLs. We will be changing Encelebix access control lists to be Alliance only. This is it. This is both, in my opinion, the technically most complicated thing, and also, in the end, I think that this is going to be the biggest piece, the biggest change in this change. It's going to, this is the factor that could have knock-on effects, that could have huge impacts in the way that nullsec works and nullsec groups work going forward. This is the lead being buried. We are halfway through the article, more than halfway through the article, and this is the biggest one. All right. This will give alliances control over which of their members can traverse through Encelebix gates, but constrain usage to the organizational unit of an alliance. ACLs are another design element that was introduced a lot of convenience into EVE, but has made some elements of the game too unrestrained and effective. In trying to mitigate the scope of organizational size, this is an easy restriction on Encelebix gates that will introduce new logistical tension. No other structures related to navigation will have ACL or restriction changes at this time. So the reason why this is like the biggest technical change is because, right now, and ACLs are totally flexible, right? It doesn't matter what group you're in or whatever. You can have when I changed from one alliance to another alliance, not only was I still on most of the ACLs that I was on because I was put onto them individually, but I still had control over all of the ACLs that I had created because they were they're with me. And what alliance I happen to be in doesn't matter for those ACLs. This creates a new class of ACL, an alliance-only ACL. A developer has to make this, right? When FC is weighing solutions, one of the things that they weigh is how much actual, will there need to be a code change? Will there need to be a feature change to make this possible? If we can do it without a major feature change, a good example of this would be, battlefields, right? Battlefields got changed back. Nothing in the way that the battlefields were changed required a programmer to actually pick up a ticket and do a thing, more likely than not, because the idea of spawning ships and freighters already existed. The idea of them dropping mods already existed. They would have had to make the new mods, but that doesn't require programming. That just requires tooling. Even the idea of there being a warp bubble around the wreck doesn't require a new thing. That was already built in during Invasions Chapter 2. So nothing new had to actually be built code-wise in order to make the battlefield change happen. So that's probably why they went with that solution. In the same way of just allowing... Zarzak is actually a better example. Allowing Zarzak to have bubbles is just a setting, right? Technically, there probably was some development in the background that allowed it to happen, but it wasn't significant. But the idea of a gate lockout timer, that's new. That's why they were able to, when they needed to fix the problem, they just re-allowed bubbles in Zarzak, because the new feature was disallowing bubbles in Zarzak. And so they just reverted that change. So now bubbles were allowed in Zarzak, and that was their way of fixing the problem right now. But then months later, like a year later, they put in the real change, which is the lockout timer. That required an actual, like, people that make the program to make it. It needed to be tested. It was a new feature, as it were. And then once that was done, they could actually remove the bubbles from Zarzak, right? The idea that its access control list is now locked to a specific, some access control lists are going to be locked to an alliance. Some access control lists are not going to be locked to an alliance. That's a new thing. That makes this a heavy piece of development compared to other changes that they could have done. Now, granted, there are other things here too, like this idea of like the light year range differences for the zones. That also probably requires technical changes. But I just wanted to make sure that people understand that, like, just because they are literally creating a new kind of access list in essence. But the other thing is that this comes to the foundation of EVE balance, especially when it comes to higher end groups. The question becomes, why doesn't EVE Online officially recognize coalitions? We've mentioned that I've had this brought up many times before in discussions over the years. There's always this, like, every once in a while, there's this push for CCP, now FC, to introduce the concept of coalitions into as a thing in the game. Originally, there was only corporations, and eventually FC added, well, CCP at the time, added alliances as a way of unifying corporations into one cohesive structure. And this is really important. I mean, there's a Corp ACL. Oh, no, there isn't. No, there's an ACL that has a Corp as the default. But, and I get what you're saying, but like that's a special and unique kind of ACL that's like you can have an ACL that's locked to only the Corp. But that's not the same as having an ACL that people can add and remove things to, but only within their own qualifying alliance. That's actually a separate thing. So, any rate, my point here is when CCP introduced the alliance, they introduced new tools to allow for larger organizations to evolve. This game is a game that is based on trust, and trust is incredibly powerful. And trust can only be as powerful as it is if it can be broken, right? And so the whole point is that there are lots of tools that allows us to establish and enforce trust. You know, if you're within the same corporation, you have certain tools at your disposal in order to monitor each other, in order to provide things for each other, et cetera, et cetera. And then there are some things that are available on alliance level. So now the entire alliance can rely on things, work together, and all that stuff. The alliance doesn't have an alliance wallet on its own, for example. So some things still have to be maintained on the corporation level. But the existence of the alliance structure within EVE means that there are certain rules at play that govern and certain tools for leadership in order to create and reinforce the structure of the group. Okay. But the problem is that in order for trust to be strong, trust must be vulnerable, right? And so this is where the coalition kind of comes in, right? So corporations are a certain group. They're kind of people that know each other. And then alliance is made up of corporations. A coalition is made up of alliances. And up until this point, CCP and FC have refused to introduce the concept of a coalition within the overall structure of things. There's not special coalition level comms channels that you automatically join into if you're part of any coalition. There's no coalition leadership channel that can program that can then look at all of the different alliances within the coalition in the same way that an alliance leader can look at the different corporations within the alliance. There is no formal structure to recognize and enforce trust on a coalition level. And this is extremely important because as things scale up, like the only thing that's going to take down the Imperium right now is internally to the Imperium. The idea is that as it scales up, as it becomes bigger, people can break off. Corporations do leave an alliance, But an alliance can betray or can break away from or drift away from a coalition easier than a corporation can within an alliance. And to prove that, the question of, is initiative in the Imperium? Now, obviously, right now, I think the answer is pretty obviously no. But over the years, they have actually played with the unknownness of whether or not the Imperium, or whether or not it happens to be in the Imperium or not, as like a soft point for them, right? But the thing is that by not providing infrastructure for coalitions within the game, they've allowed there to be easier to form cracks on a coalition level. Okay? This is why I've said before, like, my suggestion was that I wanted it to be where an alliance can only own systems in a specific region or even a specific constellation. So that way, if a coalition wants to like work together, they have to actually like, if they want to own a big piece of space, they have to actually divide the space between points, like domains of control. And as soon as you start doing that, you open up the introduction for cracks, right? Look at the faction warfare stuff. We owned Fleet and we projected our power out of Fleet, but there were other points of control that needed support. So we can build up fortifications and we can build up corporations and alliances and stuff in other places of the war zone and kind of trust them to control their area of the war zone. So that way, if any given point in the war zone becomes over hot, then we can collapse in on that one point and do really well there. That's how FedUp managed the war zone back when I was in charge of it, right? But this idea of like, well, we can't be everywhere. Like, it'd be too much for our alliance to have fully organized. Like, it would help if we could divide up the territory among smaller actors. But as soon as we do that, now there is two people in charge, right? And now this group is trying to influence this group over time and like acting like the daddy over this group. But like, there's a reason why this group has control here, and there's a reason why this group has control here. And so the cracks between these two, this group can start getting their own ideas, their own delusions of grandeur, their own plans, whatever. And so this group, where there's two different groups that are working in tandem with each other within the militia, but not part of the same organization, that connection is thin enough that a crack can form there, right? And so by forcing the logistical framework to be tied to the alliance, in combination with the requirement that only one in syllabix is allowed within any given system, it means that a space is best when it is owned by an alliance, not a coalition, right? And in fact, when a coalition wants to support its coalition members, they have additional logistical considerations because they can't just use each other's services interchangeably. It makes it so that there's more tension within the coalition, and there has to be actual work made by actual people and constantly maintained in order to make it actually work, because the tools themselves doesn't do it for you. And so it is a huge blow to coalitions. Now, some people have suggested that this will cause people to go into, basically just form into big alliances. On the one hand, I still argue that that's better, right? This whole coalition thing, like when you look at the alliance map, or when you look at the SOV map right now, you really don't get a real view of the power blocks, because the power blocks exist above and beyond the alliances. What you see is just a bunch of random alliances, but then when you see the coalition map, it's like one big block. One big block, right? And so what this forces you to do is to be who you say you are, right? It's not just, oh, this whole area is Imperium. It's this area is Goonswarm. This area is Dracarys. This, you know what I mean? And there's something meaningful to that. Now, they can still somewhat intermingle, because like I can have an Syllabix on this system, and then next door there could be the other alliances in Syllabix. But again, this is stuff that has to be made and thought up extra work that has to be put in to make this coalition work. And anytime you put in extra work to make a coalition work, you have the chance of breaking it up, which is awesome, which is great. Okay. So yes, if all of the coalitions dissolved and just became mega alliances, that would, in my opinion, be better than the situation that we have right now, because then at least everybody would be who they say they are, right? You wouldn't have to keep track of who all the alliances are friendly with each other or whatever. But more importantly, there are other restrictions on corporation membership levels, on alliance stuff and whatnot. So it does, on some level, restrict who can be part of, like, how many people can be part of any given thing. But it also, like, what happened, like, these coalitions have these agreements. They only have these agreements because they can share stuff with each other. As soon as you start to break that up, you're going to cause tension within, because remember, these are human beings. This is all about human beings all working together, right? So if you're ever going to break up these bigger blocks, I actually think that this is the direction to go. They could there is going to be a certain amount of collapsing into bigger alliances or whatever, but it makes it so that the tension of maintaining your own identity. What if an alliance doesn't want to subsume? What if Dracarys doesn't want to join the Goon Swarm in mass? There's a lot. If they wanted to be in Goon Swarm, they would have been in Goon Swarm. They want to be in Dracarys. So now Dracarys has to make a choice. Do they want to continue to be working with the Imperium, with the Goon Swarm as closely as they are with the Imperium, knowing that that now the Goons can't offer them the same level of access that they did before, or do they go their own way, right? And these are interesting questions. So it's easy to poo-poo this as being like, oh yeah, we're just going to form mega alliances or whatever. But this is, in my opinion, so much better of a situation, and is at least one step closer to that idea that, like, as things scale up, the chances for the cracks to form become more and more significant. There has to be pressure on the system. There needs to be things that can break between trust. So if the coalition was in game, there would exist a new meta higher level of organization, which have init Imperium grouped together. Yep. I'd be lying if someone set those permissions for public users. Well, that's the point. Is this would also be the death of public NSILs, right? I think that this is pretty cool. This, like, I've always said, like, I wanted it to be like you could only own territory within a specific region or a specific constellation. And I've had a lot of people in nullsec almost punch me in the face when I say such things, and rightfully so. That's fine. I think that this is actually a much more clever solution that low key gets to about the same point that I was talking about. So it's going to be very fascinating to see how this works. The big thing I will point out to everyone, though, is whatever you see online, on Reddit or whatever else about this, especially if it comes from null blockers, do not fucking believe it. Okay? Because these guys, they have their plans, and then they have what they're saying out loud. These are organizations that are at war with each other, or at least in conflict with one another. They, like, if they have a plan, if they have it taken care of, they're not going to necessarily be very public or open about it. They're going to be public and open about being negative about this, because that's the position to have, right? So I'm just saying, like, be wary when we see all of the doom and gloom about this. And it's going to be more important, very, very important over the course of the next several months to see any kind of announcements between any major alliances, people merging, people splitting, people complaining about. You're going to see alliances merge together, complaining the whole time that this is awful, etc., etc. But that's the point. Identity is a huge thing. Some people are going to choose to merge. Some people are going to choose that their identity is more important, and that choice is going to be meaningful, and it's going to be fun to watch. But let me know if you guys think something different. I could be crazy. Like I said, I'm not a null blocker. I don't live in nullsec. I don't think I've ever jumped through an NSIL before. That's just my thoughts on that. ACLs are another design. No others. Yeah. With this design, we want to make a few other design changes to adjust to the new environment it creates. You should have seen the look on Imperium Capsuleer's faces at eFanFest a few months ago after the Vanguard keynote on Contraband. The Contraband stuff does look cool. All right. One is that we'll be removing the need for there to be liquid ozone in the Ensilibix usage. This is actually pretty cool. It makes it so that logistics, you don't need to refuel it. Because it has capacitor, it no longer requires fuel. This also makes it so, as they say here, that you don't need to pay for it anymore. You could charge a toll on Ensilibixes to help pay for the fuel that it takes. It won't take fuel anymore, so it won't, whatever. Obviously, liquid ozone could potentially have its market impacts, but ice products are always fucking weird because it's more of a thing about moving it than about getting it. Since the Ensilibixes are baked in jump rate limit mechanic, we no longer see the need for this extra piece of complexity. We're also removing tolling from Ensilibixes since they'll be only applying to an alliance. So you don't have to pay for Ensilibixes, but now they are part of your alliance identity, which makes sovereignty part of your alliance identity, which again, I really love. It also means, so if you can only drop an Ensilibix, here's the big thing. So there's so much of nullsec that is bullshit. Who owns the system often doesn't mean anything to who's actually operating in the system. This is where rental empires come from. This is where coalitions come from. Who owns the TCU is often, or like the actual system ownership may not necessarily have anything to do with who's owning the structures or the other pieces to it, right? It's probably less now that Equinox is a thing, but I assume it's probably still true. This very much like reinforces that idea that it's like, this is the Alliance's territory, this is their home space. You no longer get to use out of alliance alts to avoid war decks. You no longer get to use coalition members that come in and just do stuff in your PI area. A lot of that stuff gets impacted by this in ways that I think is actually really good. They're going to hate it, but the act of them adjusting to it is going to make a better EVE Online. That is my hot take. In summary, Ensilibixes will have their capacitor consumed when ships jump through them and can only be taken if they have cap. Costs will increase by zone, radiating out from Sov capitals. There'll be ACLs made alliance only, and capital plus ships will be restricted. One thing I will say, there's one other piece to this. Did I skip it? Hold on. Where'd it go? Or is it down here? Oh, never mind. I didn't skip it yet. There will be ACLs made to, it's the next sentence. We have the agency to allow for exceptions, and in our first iteration, we will also allow roque walls to pass through. This is crazy to me, because not like what roque walls being able to pass through is one thing. I actually think that it's so weird because like roque walls do have their own way to not only jump but also conduit jump. So if anything, I think that roque walls should be one of the ones that should be able to just move on their own. But what I find fascinating about this is that they don't include jump freighters. Jump freighters are the exception. If there is going to be an exception to capital ships, it's going to be the jump freighter. They're the only capital ship that can go to HiSec. I think they're the only capital ship that can be built in HiSec, maybe. There's so many different places in which jump freighters are the exception to capitals. And yet here, they mention the roque wall, but not the jump freighter. I get it. Like nullsec, you don't use Ensilibix. Right? You don't use Ensilibixes with jump freighters. It's like, well, yeah, obviously. But I think for a lot of people, but I think that this is, it's very interesting to me that the roque wall's listed on the exceptions, but not jump freighters. All the elements work together to put logistics tension on huge sprawling empires. We fully believe that empires can exist in EVE. We feel like dominance that larger organizations demonstrate could come with increased tension, and that those points of tension can and should create opportunities for smaller groups. We are doing as much of this design as possible in the September 2026 major update, but things may change along the way. I'll be in touch. Might also be one of those shorthand things where the devs, I mean, yes, it could very well be that they didn't get mentioned, or they just so assumed that jump freighters are not. I mean, like, that's something that can be corrected. That's one of the reasons why I'm saying it out loud, so that way it could get corrected if it needs to. It's just something that jumped out at me while I was reading this. We are aware that this will have significant impact on the economic zoning of an alliance, and specifically Sov capital spaces. We'll monitor the impact and prepare to make adjustments along the way. In fact, we foresee one of our next steps after releasing this will be to do a readjustment of Sov resources in particular, a plan to readjust these as well. Oh my god. Oh my god. If they readjust which systems are good versus bad, and at the same time make this changes, oh, this winter is going to be on fire, guys. Nullsec is going to be on fire. On fire. This next year is going to be nothing but chaos if they do that. Because if they shake it up, so like look, even the last shakeup made Imperium leave their home system after a long time. They wouldn't have done that if they didn't have to, or if it wasn't a good idea for them. So yeah, if they shake up what systems are good and which systems are valuable and not valuable while making these changes, I could see a lot of news coming out of Nullsec over the next, basically from now to the next year. Is the monkey's paw for Nullsec? They've been asking for how long? I've been saying this forever. They keep saying, "Oh, you should give us stuff." It's like Nullsec is supposed to be about players. If you ask FC to do something, they're gonna make you mad. That's the only thing they can do. Their job is to create problems, not solutions. It's our job to create solutions. All right. I'm going to be honest, transparent, as open as I can in this process. Things may change due to development resources and timelines along the way, so I'll stay in touch. Make updates here and on Discord as they progress. We'll, of course, cover them here. So you can stay informed. We spent a lot of time aligning this with the CSM20 and have a majority approval that we're content with. That said, of course, we'll be listening to feedback and concerns along the way and adjust accordingly. Once this is live, I'll commit, just like we did with the Equinox mining era, to check in bi-weekly, and we'll keep our hand on tuning. Everything here is flexible, and we'll be open to adjusting it along the way based on feedback and data. That said, we really believe that in this design and think it'll make a more interesting and healthy game ecosystem. I'd like to see this up and running in some tuned version for at least 6 months before we make any broader changes to it. I know it takes at least that long for changes like this to begin hitting the meta and affecting the whole ecosystem, and needs to be given time to steep. I like the fact that he pointed that out, because it's absolutely true. I also want to call out that this will not come with perfect UI UX. This will be functional, but we're being a bit scrappy on the implementation side. This is something we will work on in future iterations. I do feel bad for some of the people that work on EVE Online, especially with the UI. I increasingly get the feeling that the system is so old that that is adjusting UI, changing UI is one of the most complicated pieces of what they do in development. For the record, by the way, pretty big news. A huge chunk of Carbon Engine has now been released on open source. There's actually a really cool Games from Scratch video about it all. Now, this isn't like a full-on game engine. It's basically all of the libraries that make their stuff work, including the graphics rendering, their network protocols, even their math library. All of them they've made open source. I don't think that we're going to see a bunch of games made in the Carbon engine right now, just because it's not that kind of engine at the moment. But it being all open source offers a certain amount of confidence at CCP or FC in their work, but also allows people to now see how the rules work behind the scenes in a level that we haven't really been able to before. So I'll be interested to see how that improves tools that we make for EVE Online, our understanding of how things are made in EVE Online, and also a mixture of whether or not things that are built for Frontiers can be then brought over to EVE Online proper, etc. when it comes to the engine stuff. So yeah, we'll see about that, but UI UX is not going to be the major design, I assume, because UI UX is probably committed to other projects right now for this cycle. UI does need a massive overhaul. There's so much system bloat and becomes unruly with how many windows you need to navigate to get proper information on basic things. I agree with you on that. But the problem is that what I'm talking about is a deeper level than that, right? Because there are libraries and there are tools to actually make these windows work, right? How often a window updates, how often does this window refreshing cause this window to refresh? Every time it refreshes, it causes more network pulls. There's a lot of consideration for UI. It's a much, 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 much more trickier thing to deal with than I think that of all of the things that are the difference between the way that players understand how games work and the way that game developers understand how games work, UI is probably the most difference between the two. It seems very, very simple for us, but let me tell you, every single one of those boxes have to get drawn. All right. And finally, thank you for your patience, your feedback, and interest in this project. I'm really excited to see how this impacts the EVE ecosystem and new puzzles and opportunities it creates. We're committed to impacting long-range projection and exploring what systems and logistical tension on larger organizations feel like in meaningful ways. Again, like, I don't think this is going to be the thing that breaks up the coalitions and like fixes the whole null-sec balance issue with scales. I will also point out in Frontiers, remember there's a tribe limit in Frontiers too. One of the things that FC has learned is that in order to make the game better balanced, they need to make it so that groups can only be certain size. You guys say, oh, we're going to make mega alliances. Well, what happens when alliances can only have so many corporations in it? And what happens when the corporations can only have so many members in it? Right? Like there's lots of things that FC can do now to like reduce the total number of people that can be corralled using the tools of the game itself without additional tools and resources being made. And that's one of those things where it's like that will hurt big groups and not hurt small groups, which is good, right? If we build better tools for corporations to be able to manage themselves, but then also make it so that alliances can only grow so large, then that makes it so that small groups can rise up very quickly. But large groups require large amounts of technical investment by the players in order to maintain their size. And that might make a better EVE Online. But I don't know. We're not there yet. All right, so there's a forum link and a Discord post. There's already feedback on this. Obviously, like I said, some people are being very mad about it. I've actually seen some pretty positive comments about it. Definitely the restriction on the ACLs is going to be the kind of the thing that anybody who thinks about it jumps out at them as being dramatic. I will say, again, the pointing out of things that are just mechanically wrong with this post, including that thing about jump fatigue, but then also, I mean, they do say, somebody pointed out that supers can't use ancils, but again, like some of the, it's just unfortunate, but that's not really going to be an important piece to making this work or not. But yeah, so let me know, let CCP know or FC know what you guys think. And that is the biggest news for the day, pretty much. We'll see that more about it as we get closer to September. Nullsec hate staying strong in here in this channel. Well, I mean, I'm not a nullsec guy, so that makes sense that my viewers are not generally null. I mean, we definitely have nullsec guys. I mean, there's plenty of people. Morecarter doesn't seem to be here right now. Nullsec loves friction. That's the problem, though, is that like they want their enemy to have weaknesses, but they want them to have strengths. I'm not going to go into big nullsec rants right now. Yes, it is about a fundamental difference of what's. The problem is it's trees for forests, right? Like what's going to fix this problem is going to be painful to people that are participating in it, because the problem is that they have it too easy right now, right? So whatever the solution is, it's just like scarcity. Whatever the solution is, it's going to be painful because right now they just have it too easy. It's just, how do you make it so that it's more interesting without making them feel like you're just gutting them, you know? All right, now then. Oh, by the way, there is merch available down below. I have a store, and I added a new thing to that store, but for some reason, YouTube hasn't picked up on it yet. So I have this new sticker that I designed. I made this design, as above, so below. You can have it as a sticker. You can have it as a book. You can have it as all. You can get it with all the things. It's on the merch store. There's a link down below. I couldn't add this to the actual like highlighted merch because it's not. I don't know what YouTube's doing, but you know, pick it up if you're interested. I thought it was good. I go into null for fleets and do everything else in high-low. Yeah, somebody asked me in rookie chat, it's like, well, what do you think about Ensyllabix, the Ensyllabix changes? And I'm like, I never use Ensyllabixes, so I'm not the person to ask. All right. Now then, what we're going to do now is watch the New Eden News, or the Nerds. We're going to watch the latest episode of Nerds. I have it on 1.25 speed. We'll pause when we need to. I might skip through some stuff because it's already... We're already at 2.5 hours, so, and this is like 45-minute video, so we're probably going to be here for a little while. I don't know. We'll see how far we get into this. But it's Friday, and I haven't been able to stream a lot today, or this week, so here's making up for everything. I am actually interested in changing to a Friday show, like every Friday we do the Friday, or the one of the week instead of random, like at different times. Let me know if you guys think what you think about that. But either way, let's jump into the nerds.
Hi everyone, it's me, your friend, FC Convict, the yellow lion of the EVE Online community team Voltron. And I'm joined today for the next episode of the New Eden Review Dev Show with FC Swift, the black lion, and FC Lumii. I'm going to say you're the blue lion. You wouldn't get these references.
I do not. I am so confused.
Voltron. Voltron's great. If she doesn't get the Voltron, we need to bring back Voltron. What? We need to bring back Voltron. I got here late. What's your thoughts on the current build of Vanguard? Actually, I didn't actually talk about the Vanguard that much. Ironically, oh shit, I haven't even talked about the Vanguard stuff. Oh boy. 07. Thanks, Ragtag. So, okay. What do I think about the Vanguard stuff? Tell you what. I'm going to plan to stream next week on Monday. All right, because I have a lot of catching up to do. I'm going to say this right now. I can either do the nerds or we can talk about Vanguard. Which one do we want to do? Just quick, informal poll, nerds or Vanguard chat? Or Avalon. Avalon chat or nerds? Obviously, this is the last weekend of Avalon. Get out there. I do recommend what I'm doing right now, which is kind of sitting around and waiting for an Avalon fleet to pop up and then rush over there to go do it. Nerds, Avalon. Oh, we're 1-1. Nerds now, Avalon later. All right. Yeah, let's look. If you like Avalon, if you like Vanguard, you should be playing Vanguard right now. Like seriously, it's a pretty good build. I mean, like, go play it. You can play it. There's no reason to not play it. If you're interested in whether or not you like it, go play it. Next week, I will give my thoughts on this playtest in total. If you want to talk to me about it, hop into the Discord and let me know what your thoughts are, because I'm still trying to form my full opinions about it. I guess my TLDR is that this build is significantly more true to form of an extraction shooter. I feel like in a lot of ways this is a step backwards towards it being just an extraction shooter versus something more than an extraction shooter than the previous iterations. But at the same time, this is the official alpha, so everything up until this point has just been testing solutions, like stand-in stuff, didn't require any kind of real precision or perfection. But now that they're building it from the bottom, like this is the final version, as it were, and so I can understand that there's a certain step back in design, because there's a lot of things from the previous builds that just couldn't be ported over and has to be built fresh from scratch. So it makes sense to me that this build is closer to the true to form extraction shooter kind of roots than not only the previous version, but basically any version since this whole time. This feels very, very much like a gamey extraction shooter, and not much else. That said, I don't know if that's bad or good or not, and we're going to have to see how it goes in future iterations as we are now building upon the real version of the game. That's my TLDR of it. Now then, nerds.
Too young, sadly.
Yeah, but I figured that FC Zealous and FCB are the arms.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I need some context.
So we're a big robot made of robot lions.
Okay.
You're one of the legs, I'm one of the legs, and he's like the body that holds it all together.
I don't think I'm like the most stable person you could pick to be a leg, but okay,
No,
let's do it.
I think you and me, we help sort of keep marching forward.
Yeah.
While Zealous and B do things, make blazing swords and stuff, like alliance tournaments.
And together we form Voltron.
That's right. We do
Okay.
the community team Voltron, which is why we're here today. Not to save the galaxy, although on occasion we've been known to
We
do
do
that.
that.
Yeah.
We do that. But we're just here to talk about recent happenings in EVE Online and some announcements from Fenris Creations and some cool upcoming things that involve the community.
This isn't too fast for everybody, right? I have ADHD, so I can like follow this just fine. I just don't want to blow anybody out of the water.
Okay. What have you guys been up to lately? Have you done anything cool in the video game EVE Online?
I have been no-lifing Operation Avalon in the game. I am very bad at shooters, as I was brutally made aware as soon as I tried to play Vanguard. Instantly died, but it's fine. You're supposed to die, right? Even extraction is death. But then went into the EVE side of things, found a nice little quiet system, and just grinded the systems. And then anytime someone would show up, I would bully them away so they could leave me in my system in peace.
I will say that the EVE side of Avalon is actually quite good, especially the hacking. That's the one thing that I'll say is that of all of them, the one that I think is the most rewarding is the hacking, as on top of the or other than, of course, the final boss site, which is of course only one per investigation. But so the hacking ends up being super lucrative, as it turns out. And also, if you do just want to grind Vanguard in order to get your stuff completed, one of the things that people are doing is they're just picking a single mission, completing that first, because the first mission that they give you is always like the easiest one in the chain. So people are doing that first one and then abandoning it and then picking it up again. So that way they can just kind of grind out the points really, really quickly. So, you know, it's getting towards the end of the playtest. If you still need to catch up, there are a couple of good methods to grind out those points real quick for the track. Anything else I wanted to say about that? That's it.
No, just try and find a new system. I found trying to compete with other people is just too hard. They're just too much faster and too much better.
I found like trying to compete with other people when you actually competing over the same sites can get a bit rough. But if you happen to find yourself in this nice little habitat where like these guys are doing the combat sites and I just want to zoom around and do the exploration sites, and I'm like, this is in low sec as well, right? So because high sec was really busy, I'm like, all right, you guys stay over there and you do your thing in peace, and I'll stay over here and I'll do my thing in peace.
Yeah, just like an unspoken agreement.
Yeah,
like I won't mess up with your, I won't yuck your yum.
We'll just
living
crab
stuff.
together.
Yeah.
That's right, just a big happy family. Yeah, and you said you did the how many accounts did you complete?
I did it on 6 accounts. And it wasn't like I was doing it like 6 at one time. I just like filled the track. I'm like, oh, let me go to the next one. Fill the track. Oh, let me go to the next one.
Which sites are you running that is going so speedily?
It's not going very speedily. I'm just
He's just grinding.
I'm just on the grind.
I mean, you've done 6 in a week. I call that pretty speedily.
I'm not working very hard. I'm just like working
As it seems,
so
yeah.
just doing it.
It does not take very much. Like I did 6 tasks and I got almost a quarter of the progress done. It does not take long to grind through it if you're actually sitting down and grinding, as far as like these tracks go.
Doing some research for EVE Online.
And also we did you can repeat the task, so you could just grind it straight with hacking or straight with combat or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. It's like product familiarization.
Exactly.
That's exactly
Yeah, market research.
And
It's
also
surprisingly
accumulating
addictive.
billions of dollars worth of loot, but that's just
That's just a side thing.
yeah.
I've seen a couple of people streaming, especially I think it was Urs that was doing it, where he was running the Vanguard side of things to kind of push the reward track even further. I'm just not good enough at it, so I just did the EVE side.
Yeah.
And it's quite fun.
I just feel like I said, I did in high sec, like competition. I went out to Syndicate, did a few there. This was good, all hacking, by the way.
Yeah.
And then I ended up in Iridia, and I found a system that had a bunch of my alliance mates in it who were actually just sort of like crabbing the combat stuff. So he was like, oh, you guys go over there, I'll do this a bit over here. But then eventually that investigation ended, so I had to go and find another system. That's where I had like scary people adjacent to me who were showing up and descanned intermittently while I'm hacking cans. I'm like, lower it to 1 AU. Oh, no, they're just fine walking past. They were actually like, on their way here. All right, so we're okay. But it was good. I only finished the reward track once, but I got a bunch of swag, which I had to very, very nervously mule all the way back through low sec to get it to where I was going to stash it and sell it from eventually. Probably going to have to sit on those implants for a while because there's such a large volume coming into the market that it'll take a little while before the prices sort of like recover.
It's long-term investment. It's fine.
But hopefully Oz will be proud of me for like applying that kind of intellectual rigor to my time, because normally I just like go sell to the buy orders. That's the first thing I normally do.
Control.
Oh, one thing I will say, people have been asking about the chip, like the final reward, which one to get. And I honestly don't know. Because so the officer mod is an eye stab, and that's just going to be good. Especially freighter pilots, haulers and stuff are going to want that eye stab, and they're going to be willing to pay for it. And at the same time are going to use it so it possibly could be lost. So as far as the officer mods go, I think it would probably be a good officer mod to pick. So if I had to give an approximation, I'd say 1 to 2 billion ISK or whatever for the eye stab. The skins though, are actually very interesting because it's the Aeon and the Salvation. The Aeon is, of course, the super carrier, and the Salvation is the Tech 2 new command carrier for the Amar. And the Avalon, the skin itself, the Arcambine skin itself is very pretty. It has cool effects. It's got good edge tracing. It changes colors when it's in warp. It is a very fancy skin. And the Salvation right now doesn't have any skins. And if anybody's going to get a skin, it's going to be for their capitals. Like a lot of people are willing to spend a lot of money for their capital skins, especially supercarrier skins, because they're so big, they're easy to see even among a fleet, right? And so, like, I kind of don't think that there's a bad option right now. Because, like, the eye stab is an officer mod, and it's so probably going to hit that officer mod value of, like, 1 to 2 billion ISK. But at the same time, like, it really, really, really depends on if they introduce new ways of getting the Archimbind skin in other ways later. Because the Archimbind skin is a very popular skin. I know at least a couple of people that really want to work on the whole collection, and so are willing to pay for stuff potentially. And of the different command carriers, the Salvation was one of the two that we thought was going to be a big winner in it. I haven't really seen how the numbers have really played out as far as usage yet, but I don't know. I legitimately do not know which of those ones I could suggest. My gut would be to go with the eye stab, but that actually makes it so that it might be better to go with the skin, because you're going to have people that have demand for the skin. Like, people are going to look it up, be like, oh, I just got a Salvation. Oh, there's only one skin for it. Or even with the Aeon, it's like looking through all the skins. You see the Vanguard or the Archimide skin, and you're like, wow, that skin's really cool. I want that skin. But if most people instinctively choose the eye stab, then that means there's even going to be less of the skins out there. And so I think that the eye stab is going to be the best consistent if you want to sell it in a year and know it's going to be worth 1 to 2 billion. Then the eye stab's probably the best one. But the skin one could be like somewhere between 2 to 20 billion for all we know, for how valuable it could be. I'm not even joking. Like, there is no upper limit for how expensive that skin could end up, just depending on how many people end up picking it up, how much time goes by, and how popular the Salvation becomes, right? So it's really up to you. What if you want the consistent, absolutely going to be good one, then the officer mod is going to be a no-brainer solution. But if you want to be a little bit riskier, then I think those skins could go look up the price of things like the Yule festival skins for like the Paladin or whatever, or any of those, like those skins that were put out once a while ago and then never again. Those skins are insanely valuable, and this very, very much could be one of those. And with so much attention on the eye stab, I think that the skin could be worth a lot more than I originally gave it credit for. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below.
Right click sell all.
Get half of what I'm supposed to get for him just because
You gotta like scroll through, and anything that's like not like within like the really red numbers, when it goes like above 10%, then it's a no. But
the
rest, it's fine.
This is like 99% below average. Just like sell.
Oh, no, I can't do that.
Yeah, no.
We actually had it's not often that we get people to swing by the Fenris offices, but like we did have a player who is a big market tycoon. And I was kind of asking him like, oh, what tools do you use to do like market trading and stuff like that? I was comparing it to like what the incredible spreadsheets that Oz has and all the tools that they've been developing. And he was like, I just do it kind of on vibes. And I was like, oh, that works. He's like, I've made several trillion ASK. I was like, jeez, I guess I have to do vibe trading now. Just like, oh, this feels like a good thing to buy. Nah.
I mean, it is a video game, so like on a long timeline, it's easier to win than lose, to be honest.
It is like the wrong vibe, you know?
Yeah.
How do you know it's the right vibe you're playing?
I know, but he said he's used this methodology to train other people to market trading, and they've all become trillionaires as well. So there's got to be something in this. I'm just like,
lore. When the colony ships arrived in New Eden, there were already sharks on... What? There were already sharks on Pator. Hell supercarriers were planned from early on lore-wise. I believe they were created benevolently and originally as transport ships. What are you talking about? I mean, okay. They added spikes honoring they saw sharks of Pator after the fact, I believe. There was... okay. You got to send me the thing about them being sharks on Pator. That is the level of madness that I truly enjoy.
Like trading by vibes and what seems good.
Was this guy going to end up like writing one of those books or doing a seminar or something? It's
I need like a uni type class of this. Like someone.
I have often said that the best. So if you are a newer player, Hell show info. Wait a minute. Are you serious? Hold on. It's not like we have lots of things to cover today. Let's just get distracted. Inspired by the vicious scissor-toothed shark indigenous to the old world Matar, the Hell is widely viewed as a sign of the Republic out for blood. That's really interesting. I wonder... I mean, it still could have been brought by humans, in theory. That's a fun one. I mean, a shark is so biologically perfected that I could almost see it emerge. What is it called? Is it convergent? I can't remember what it's called, but like, you know, just like crabs have evolved independently like a million times. Something that is shark and close enough to being a shark that we would call it a shark could have happened. I'm saying like we don't know prehistory. So we could say that it's indigenous even if it was brought by the original settlers. But then like what settlers are bringing sharks with them on the spaceship, right? It's not like slaver hounds, where slaver hounds you could argue were like dogs that were brought by humans when they colonized New Eden. This seems like something that would be like wildlife that is shark enough that we just called them a shark. Noah? What? No, there's a term when something is evolved, like it's not evolved because it's like the same environmental pressures causes the same evolutionary adaptions to be made. Might have been part of the terraforming ecology. Maybe. The problem is that we have so little information about original Matar because all those records were destroyed when the Amar took over. All right. You guys are trying to make me be here until like tomorrow.
Someone teach me?
Yeah. Well, we've had the Oz come onto our channel occasionally and just sort of like do his version of the Ob Report and the MER breakdown. In fact, we just had him last week as part of the ongoing guest streams that are happening on our channel. He came and did our show there, and he's obviously a very popular streamer, and you know gets really good numbers of viewers. But when you stream on the Fenris channel, you just naturally get more people show up.
Yeah. And
every time he streams, there are people who are just like, I didn't know these tools existed, because he's showing different tools on the web that you can use to find like the best deals, and he tells you which things are undervalued and things like that. So
yeah, it's crazy the tools that are out there.
If you're willing to apply just a bit of rigor, you know, to thinking about things, it is possible to make a significant amount of ISK just through trading.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and so one of the things I've said is that like if you're a newer player and you're like I'm a new player, but I'm not a dumb human. Like I want to go the challenging way. What is the best way for me to get as good at EVE Online as possible, as fast as possible? The four things I recommend are Abyss, Faction Warfare, Market, and Exploration. Exploration is your good source of root ISK. It takes nothing to do it. It's an adventure, and you can make a good starting ISK. But Abyss will teach you how to fly, especially if you use it correctly to teach you how to fly. And the Market will not only help you make you rich, but you will learn the game. You will learn all of the modules. You'll learn all of the ships. You'll learn what's popular, what's not popular, what causes something to be used versus not. By trying to understand the Market, you will learn all of the pieces of the game. Between that, the Abyss, that will teach you all of the fundamentals of the game. And then Faction Warfare and Exploration is a good way to like get out there and do stuff. It is convergent evolution. Okay, I was right.
I don't have the patience to like you should see.
We are the people that facilitate this ability for people to do
Someone
market
else
trading.
do
Yeah.
it.
We just mindlessly buy.
Yeah, that's all I do. I'm just a consumer. I'm just like a Kirby and just hoovering up everything that comes from the market. But I mean, I've got PI setups that are 11 years old that I set them up
And
I'm
never
like,
touched.
and I just let them sit there. So they've been just sitting there with their like all their silos full now for like 11 years because I can't be bothered going back. And it's the same with sell orders. It's like I'll set up a bunch of sell orders. It's like I'm never going to go and adjust these prices. You know, they just expire.
Yeah, I found my R&D agents that I completely forgot about.
Yeah,
I just looked at them. I was like, wow. Okay, that's a lot of LP.
22 million data cores or something wild like that sitting there.
Neat. Close. I'll see you again in 5 years. Research agents.
I will say, if you are going to take a break from EVE Online, making sure that your R&D agents are set up correctly is a great last thing to do. I've had a lot of people that come back to EVE Online, and the way that they get themselves bootstrapped back into the game is going to their R&D agents, cashing out all their research points into data cores, and then selling them for ISK. It is a good idea, especially if you're going to be gone from the game for a long time.
The other day, I was like putting some stuff in the oven. I can't remember what it was. Oh, I was putting some BPOs into just to do some research, and I had this isn't on a character use industry very much. So I basically had like eight slots.
Yeah.
And I have 8 BPOs, but I can only install 7 because I've still got that one job I haven't delivered from 6 years ago, like on the other side of the galaxy in
And you
space.
just like cancel it?
No.
I hate that so much.
There now.
I don't believe you can.
Yeah.
Tell me.
No, No, it's stuck. You have to physically travel to that place in order to get it going.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you can remotely cancel jobs, can you?
I don't know.
I haven't ever done it because I've always been in the same system. There is a skill that lets you do remote altering of them, but it's within, I think it's within a certain number of jumps or within a certain region, not like several regions away.
Well, never mind. I guess you're
Maybe the
saying.
devs should fix that.
Viewers, if you know better, leave a comment.
If there is one, we should add it to like the little
Crowdsource
things
the
and just like stick it on the wall of just like.
They did just set up the room with all the little things, so we can just like sneak in and make this a suggestion from ourselves.
One of the perks of working here, you can just add stuff to the little things as well.
So if you weren't at FanFest, or you were, well, if you weren't at FanFest, you won't remember, but if you were, you might remember there was like a booth set up where players could come and just like grab a post-it note and write
I'm 1,000% sure that this has been recommended multiple times to Little Things.
their suggestions for like little things, updates to the game, and we collected hundreds of those. And just earlier today, FC K1P1 posted a photo of one of the meeting rooms where basically everything's been removed on the room. Now the entire wall is covered in
There's only 2 PI notes? Come on now. That can't be right.
hundreds of the post-it notes that you gave us, and they're all sort of being sorted and triaged and things like that. So like, what can we tackle and what process we can move through? Just in case anyone's like, oh, you know, they're writing their post-it note and they're like, no, this is probably just going to go straight in the trash. Like at the end of the thing, we're like, you know, just dump them in a you know, throw them in a dumpster or something.
You know,
like
they
that.
are cherished.
Compared to last time we did this, last time they all just like ended up laid out on a couch, but the couch is now too small, so now we have an entire room for it.
Yeah.
If the little things get added to FC Karker's like little book of little things,
Oh, you know it's going to happen.
then you know it's like
It's not a little book. She's like, you ever seen one of those? She's like closing a dad wallet.
Yeah.
Can I just say, hold on. So all this stuff, especially like K1P1 and stuff, doing the little thing stuff, hearing that Karker is still... I've been low-key worried that Karker wasn't part of this whole thing anymore. To hear that Karker's still there and working on this and one of the people doing the little things thing makes... honestly brings down my anxiety a little bit.
It just doesn't work anymore because it's just so stuffed full of like business cards, coupons, and notes and all this
Receipts.
nonsense. Yeah, you can't do it.
One post-it note says fix PI. The other post-it note says delete PI. And they're like, eh.
Cool. So I've also been chipping away at the military campaigns. When a new one pops now, so I'm sort of ping-ponging between all 4 of the factions. I'm not loyal. I'm just chasing achievements. I just want dank skins.
You just want the rewards.
Bargo obvious.
Yeah. So I just keep hopping between them, and I've sort of plucked all the low-hanging fruit. All that's left is like a bunch of the faction warfare stuff, which is like cool, but I don't want to like keep hopping militias to do those. So I'm just hoping I can make my contributions just with the stuff that I can do in high sec or low sec without having to enlist. Hang on, I think it's on my phone here. Check this out.
Yeah, I think
so see this timer?
Yes.
20 hours and 5 minutes. That's when the next.
I will not be happy with Vanguard until I can go in Vanguard and visit my own PI colony. That's the moment that I become like a big believer in Vanguard. I'm just saying.
That's when the next.
You are
objective
so
pops
organized.
That I'm going to be.
This guy campaigns.
Yep. So as soon as
I mean,
that
I've
alarm
done
goes
a few,
off, I'll be
but-
back to my PC and I'll be doing. I think it's probably a run missions one or something like
So
that.
that's what, going to be like sometime tomorrow?
Yeah, 20 hours from now is going to be probably like 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Yep.
Yep.
Just around downtime.
Yeah.
We know
my
what he's
spot.
doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know
My spot. Convict goes to military campaigns.
Oh, Convict didn't make it stand up today. He must be really busy. Yeah, that's right. Product familiarization. That's how
But there was a really cool event kind of on that where for the Galente campaign, they had one to build pioneers. And there was a group of players that was just like, hey, come to this system. We'll give you pioneer BPCs. We've gathered a bunch of materials, so we'll give you that too. Just come on in, take our stuff, and keep the pioneers or give it back. We don't care.
Yeah, it was a group of like very, sort of Galente loyalist type people who were like really trying to push for their campaign. So now they're like trying to crowdsource people to come in the community and get involved and engage, which is great because that was one
But it's only 20% done, so we still need you.
of the sort of like flow on effects we're hoping to see from this
Yeah,
endeavor,
exactly.
right? So there'll be people who are loyalists or passionate about a particular empire or another that would be pushing really hard for it. And if they're like, you know, they feel like they're lagging behind or they just want to like try and pull ahead a little bit more, start campaigning, you know, like put the campaign in military campaigns, you know, recruit some nerds to come and help you out.
Yeah, it was really cool. And it was just, I flew over there just to check out the vibes. They were super nice. They went out on like a mining op afterwards as well. Gave boost to everyone, free compression for anyone that wanted to do it. Really
I
good
feel
stuff.
like we need more propaganda like this.
Yeah.
Now I want to address the elephant in the room, which is that
The claw.
the claw on Lumi's arm. So
Yeah.
it's not a cast, it's a splint.
It is a splint, yes.
What happened?
So it turns out that if you go outside and you do something other than video
Okay,
gaming,
let me stop you right there.
You
because
lost me.
I've already identified your mistake.
I know it's going outside.
Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
So I went outside.
CB Lumii or FC Lumii, respect you, but because we have time constraints, we're going to skip the real life story and jump to Drifter Hives with Ark. Unless somebody tells me I should go back and listen to that part.
Yeah. Another fun and interesting thing I did earlier this week was I went on a public fleet with the Arydanika Research Consortium
nice.
guys. Yeah, so Dutch Gunner had reached out to me. He's like, hey, I think I found a bug with the drifters and the drifter hives. They're not seeing the doomsdays anymore. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, cool. And I spoke to FC Rampant about it. And he was like, oh, that is interesting. And I'm like, okay, cool. So Dutch Gunner said, we're doing another one on the weekend. And I'm like, oh, could you just like...
Okay, if they're saying it's interesting, then that might be... He's not winking and nodding. So the chances that this is a bug is high.
some screenshots or some footage or something. He's like, why don't you come along? So I kind of did like an undercover boss ride along with the fleet, which was really cool. I've never done a drifter.
Which is Dutch Gunner still in chat right now? Did he do his fleet? He's probably already on his fleet. He's probably in the middle of his fleet right now. Dang it.
Before. And I don't think a lot of people do that content particularly. But the cool thing about the Arydanika people is they kind of like don't really care about ISK per hour and stuff like that. They just do what's sort of like interesting because they're kind of like a really sort of like they have a lot of lore interest and a bit of role play in segments of the community.
Anytime we have anything lore related, we always just not spy on them because their Discord's open, but we like watch them to be like, are these guys like getting it? Are they figuring it out? Oh, did they figure it all out in one minute or something?
Yeah, because
and then they make like the mad spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so the reason why this is so important is because, like, so the drifters in the Abyss don't have a doomsday. And more importantly, the drifters that had clearly fought the Triglavians before also didn't have their doomsday. The fact that the doomsday failed to fire on the death balls was one of the things that people noted that was weird about the drifters. So there's been this theory that the Triglavians, or either the Triglavians have some sort of weapon, or the Abyss itself, the nature of the Abyss, interfered with the drifters' doomsday. But that never actually went anywhere. And then obviously in Ponchvin, some do, some don't. The cheaper, like they've been cranking out battleships more, and so the cheaper ones don't have a doomsday. But the idea that they would stop working after the drifter hive, because the idea is that, like, we took the drifter hives, so if the drifters' doomsdays in the hives no longer work, that might tell us something about the nature of the doomsday weapon. But if it's just a bug, then it's just a bug. But what's fun is that even if it is just a bug, now FC gets to decide whether or not they want to make it meaningful or not. Because it is, even if it's a bug, it's still a thing that has happened.
Yeah. So went along with those guys, got the footage, and I'll pass that along to...
All right, the Drifter Doomsday might be hyperdimensional. The effect may be similar to Fracture effects. Exactly. Like, there could be some piece to this where it's like, there's a reason why this happened. And again, even if it is a bug, FC now gets an opportunity to decide whether or not they want to revert the bug, or explain the bug, or explain the reverting of the bug. It's a fun thing. That's the fun part about this kind of storytelling.
The FC rampant. Sure enough, those drifters aren't shooting the doomsdays right now, so trying to figure out what it is. But that was fun because I hadn't done that before. A couple months ago, I went with the same group that were doing the drone fabricators in Wormhole Space, and I hadn't done one, so I was like, oh, come along and experience it as well, and enjoyed it a lot. So check out Ark if you're into those kinds of things, or if you just want to try a different approach to EVE Online, to the sort of sweaty ISK per hour, sort of.
I do feel it's kind of unfortunate that Dutch Gunner still gets credit as Ark because he has his own thing. I'm pretty sure Dutch Gunner's alliance is recruiting now. Can't remember its name right now. But yeah, he's not explicitly with Ark, but he does it through in conjunction with Ark. But either way,
it's remarkable how fun this video game is when you try out
and how much more stuff there is, rather than just sort of like go out to nullsec, crab, get in a huge fight,
blow up some stuff,
go back to crabbing. Yeah, exactly. So I think there is actually a lot of other really cool stuff out there. And I think this, again, the military campaigns in this Project Avalon has probably hoovered up a few people who are looking for a nice little change in pace.
Yeah, it is really kind of relaxing. I like the structure of this event compared to other ones because you can, for those of you who haven't checked out the event, you can actually, for Operation Avalon, you can pull up the map, select Operation Avalon, and you'll see there's like between 40 and 60 little investigations that are all around, spread through high sec, low sec, and a little bit of null-sec.
You just have to turn the filter on things, the activity filter, and then you choose the investigations. But sorry,
and then you can go to those systems and you can just run the sites that are there, or you can also probe down and scan the Aegis Squalls that players have now figured out that these squalls will just bounce between celestials, but sometimes they'll go off to somewhere that's not a celestial, and it'll be a point of interest, POI, and those are like the harder versions of the site that like progresses the system investigation a little bit.
Just like Shattered Nomads work for Ark. Well, I'm work with. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, Dutch Gunner runs the fleets a lot, so like it just, I don't know. There's a part of me that he's a friend of mine now. So, we talk all the time, so it's like there's a part of me that's like, like Ark is great, and I think that it's important that they exist, and their Discord is great. It's a great like communal point for working on things about the lore and stuff, but like Dutch puts in so much work. I feel like he should get credit separate sometimes.
Faster, so you can go in there, like let them live a little bit, go in there, find the new site, and then kill them.
But you have to use combat probes to locate at those sites, because they just warp off basically to a dead space site. So as soon as you see him go to that destination, combat probes out, and then warp to him. Then you kill him.
And there's they'll go to either a combat site, a salvage site, or an exploration site. So if you're in a ship, I suggest bringing a T3 because you can just do an easy refit for everything. But just bring a mobile depot with you so you can refit to whatever you want.
Yeah, salvages or salvages. You can have a jack of all trades type thing. I was intending to use a T3 to do that exact thing, but I ended up just going down the hacking rabbit hole, got into a flow, and it was just like
got locked in.
Yeah, totally, because the sites respawn so quickly. Yeah, and I basically had all the hacking sites in the system to myself.
It is so good for hacking. Like I said, if you're good at scanning and hacking, that is the premium way. I've talked to some people that have been done all the different styles of play and all that stuff. The rewards in the hacking sites are very, very good, and they respawn so fast.
So I'm scanning, warp to the site, scanning the next site while I'm in warp, hack, do more scanning while I'm moving between cans, hack, and then warp to the next site, and just
the spawn rate is incredibly high on these things because they're so limited into these 40 to 60 systems. We still have we want players to run a bunch of sites, so we know they're going to be packed. So we just jack the spawn rate way up.
It's awesome. Let me see. What else are we going? Oh, we haven't spoken about something else that's very important.
Dun, 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 dun.
The Alliance Tournament.
Yeah.
So yesterday we published a news item announcing the Alliance Tournament 22, or XXII, as FC Overload insists on calling all tournament-related Roman numerals.
Yep.
And we announced that this year the Amar are going to be the sponsors. There was also a cryptic, pretty obvious actually, hint in the blog that the Amar were soliciting or manufacturing or delivering Sentinels and Curses.
Yeah,
for
there
some-
was some research on those hulls.
on those hulls, yeah. So, read into that what you will. But yeah, like AT season's always amazing. It's super hectic. It's a really cool, it's a great event for the EVE community broadly, having like our own kind of like esport, top of the mountain championship type thing. But there's also a segment of players to whom this is kind of like, this is their end game content.
Yeah.
This is their like Everest.
This is their EVE.
They play for the other, 11 months of the year just to sort of like get ready for when it all comes down to this.
For a long time, I was one of those players.
Yeah.
Like I thought that I finished everything I wanted to do in EVE. Then there was this thing called the Alliance Tournament. This was back in Alliance Tournament 5, and I was like, let me give that a shot.
Unironically, he's almost bearing the point. Like, he as at least Randolph, like he got into making being bigger part of the EVE community and stuff by doing AT and then ADT commentary, and then of course eventually gets hired by FC CCP / whatever.
Dog water at it the first time. The second time, I found a good team, and we
Also, boundary violations.
ended up winning.
Just the once?
Yeah, the 5 times.
5 times. Oh, I don't think you mentioned that before.
Yeah, I'm really humbled about my 5-time winning championship team. The most that's ever happened.
I would
For
be
now.
humble about it. I'd mention the 5 times every time, like Booker T, every time it comes up. I'd make sure I
During
mention it.
FanFest, I was like talking to some of the Tuskers who'd be like, just hang it up, guys. You had a good run. You don't need to do it anymore.
You know they
proven
won't.
everything that you need to prove. Just relax off into the sunset. Retire while you're on the high note.
There will come a day that someone will break the record.
Yeah, I know. It's terrifying.
Can't last forever. So that was the publication with the announcement. Go read that news item if you're interested in the AT, or even if you're like, what's this Alliance Tournament thing? Maybe you've only been playing EVE Online for a relatively short period of time. This is a really cool thing.
New teams
is
can get
awesome.
surprisingly far in the tournament, and the reward structure is such that even if you're not playing to get to the finals, you can get just a ton of stuff in game, prize ships, skins, and it's also just a ton of fun. Yeah, loot.
Yeah. And if you take it seriously, you'll be spending weeks with locking yourselves into a room on Thunderdome, which is our sort of tournament training server and prep scrimmage server.
The first looking for scrim ads are up.
Already going, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So like a lot of alliances want to field teams, but they may not have enough sort of like a deep enough bench internally of people who are interested in doing it.
Yeah.
And we'll be just looking for people to come and play, and you don't even have to be like an amazing PvPer. But if you can like follow these steps for the 10 minutes in the arena and tackle this guy and keep range on this guy and that sort of stuff, they might just say, hell, all right, get into an interceptor. Like, we can use you in the team.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, that's how I started in the Alliance Tournament. I was just like one of the training people. Like I was on the training
you were
team.
the
I was on
Red
the-
4. You were like, you're there for them to train against and test the comps and stuff.
And then like during the day of the tournament, someone's computer just crashed, and they're like, "Well, you remember what these ships are like? Can you fly this
You
Blackbird?"
know the steps. It's like a
We've done this.
like a dancing movie, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
And my hands were shaking so bad. I was using my trackball. My hand was like so sweaty I couldn't move the ball. I was like, but no, it was great. It was so much fun. And then I got addicted, and I couldn't not do it.
yeah. Reckon you could take on the AT with one hand?
Absolutely fucking not.
I thought you were going to be like, why not? I've trained everything else. So yeah.
Towards the end, I was a bit of a liability.
We
so they
talked
put me-
about this already,
done?
so we're just going to jump to Down Under.
Yes. So EVE Down Under is a play meetup that happens in Australia. Sort of back to every year. It's sort of, it's
Important to note, Convict being, from that area, CSP Convict got hired because he, like, EVE Down Under, it was like his whole thing. Like, if you wanted to put on a meetup in Australia or surrounding areas, he not only was willing to go through all the efforts in order to make it possible for you, but he would show up himself. And this was back when he was just Bam Stoker. And that is how he got hired as a community manager. It was like to help manage the events and stuff. So I'm sure that he's a big fan.
been off and on again, but for the last several years now.
It's back now,
Yes,
yeah.
Syliana has been sort of delivering it consistently,
Right
which
on.
is really, really cool. Do you have the deets off the top of your head?
I do have the dates off the top of my head. It is last year was in Sydney. This year they've changed locations and will be in Melbourne instead. And the one and only FCB will be making the trek from Iceland to Down Under to attend.
Nice.
Obviously, you don't want to miss that.
Yeah.
And all this is happening, if I get these dates right, and you know them, you've written them down, the 7th to 9th of August.
That's correct.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, so you can go to evedowner.com and just sort of see what the event looks like and pick up tickets to go along if you'd like to. But yeah, FC very long flight for FCP. I'm looking.
It is.
His arms are going to be so tired.
I think it's been on a proper long haul flight before, and it's like 30 hours door to door if you want to fly from Iceland to Australia. Ask me how I know.
Yeah.
If you want
You
to
might
do
have
that.
done this once or twice in your day.
Yeah, but he'll get there a few days before the event, so he's got a lot of time to recover and get his spring back in his step. And then after the event wraps up, he's got to come straight back to Iceland for the eclipse, which is
Yeah?
which is happening on the 12th.
I think so, yeah.
You better be fast.
Yeah. That's not an in-game thing, by the way. There's the sun's going out.
Oh,
Just for a minute.
Yeah, just for a minute or two here in
Yeah,
Iceland.
but like we can see it from where we are if it's not cloudy.
Well, it's hopefully the weather's going to be nice and clear. But like, I mean,
Look, I've actually got the eclipse glasses ready. I'm like full on in, but
Yeah.
it better happen. I will be so.
Yeah,
I am
I
not
know.
coming
So
to.
will be-
If it doesn't happen, I'm not coming to work.
I mean, we did have a guy actually come and visit here at the office to talk about like eclipses.
Yeah.
And he
Like
went
a sciencey guy.
he flew across the world to go to one in the Philippines, and it was overcast. But he showed the pictures and the footage, and it still looked awesome.
I am very excited for this because it's my first time really being in like a total solar eclipse.
Were you here in 2015 at FanFest when we had?
I think that's the one I missed.
Oh,
I'm jumping.
People to do it. You need to avoid that. But EDU is one cool thing that's happening amongst the community. Another really cool thing is that on the 25th of July,
That's soon.
yes,
That's in like what 2 weeks?
yep, Fun Inc. are celebrating their 450th shrink wrap Rome.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
450.
Yep. I've been on a couple of the ones previously as well, and they're always a lot of fun. So if you didn't know, Kiakti, who organizes Fun Inc. and Even Better with Friends, it's an NPSI, like a public fleet PvP roaming organization. So anyone can come along and fly and go on these with him. And his sort of signature comp of these, he takes raptors out, just like a mass ball of raptors. And like you just
Raptors are an interceptor, so super fast, tackle. I think they avoid interdiction doubles. They're just very agile, nice ships, especially when you get a whole fleet of them.
think, it's just a raptor, what's it going to do? But when you get
If it's many.
when you get like 100 of them, they're a real pain in the ass, because even if you kill a dozen of them, you've barely made a dent in the DPS output, and they're still like nipping away at you. They are like the killer bees of Eve.
Do you want to fight one raven or 100 raptor-sized ravens?
Rocks.
Yeah, maybe.
Because they raptors are hybridy, I guess. But I get your point. Like one big thing, or lots of, I don't know, you definitely want to fight
So
the
many
big
small
100
ones.
ducks.
It's
That's
also
my answer.
slower and get away from. Yeah, one duck-sized horse, that sort of thing. Wait, no, horse-sized duck.
It's getting too confusing,
I'll
man.
take the duck-sized horse. I'll kick the shit out of that thing. Easiest fight ever. Give me the dub
Sure,
now.
hope Peter's not watching.
Yeah. But that Rome, that 450th shrink wrap Rome, is forming up in Jeddah at 18:30 Eve time on the 25th of July. Links and stuff
That's
in the
cool.
description. But it's a public fleet. You can just go. Like,
Yeah, it's a great way to meet new
I recommend going if you can. Like MPSI fleets are always a great way to get involved with the community.
people
Yep.
that you might make a friend or two,
Mhm.
or just try out something new. Like it is so fun to just try something new. If you're not a PvPer, this is like just jump out of your implants.
Yep.
Just take a ship and go out and
Yeah, make sure to use a blank clone. Don't bring
die
implants.
and come back, rinse and repeat. It is so good.
pretty much the lowest pressure approach you can take
Yeah.
if you want to try PvP as well. It's just like,
And if you screw up, don't worry. There's 50 other people that screwed up too. Like it's,
You're not alone.
Yeah.
Screwing up also kind of creates content. Like if you go the wrong way, you might find some cool stuff. Might create some content. Might get tackled and they all come back to save you.
Gyakti also runs NPSI.rocks, which is a website with a calendar that aggregates all of the schedules for the other NPSI groups,
Yeah.
like Bombers Bar and so on. So you can pretty much go there anytime and just see what public fleets are happening this day, what time is it, where to set up.
Thank you to 745 MPSI for sponsoring this show.
Yeah,
What-
and it's
what
not all
do they
PvP either. There's some PvE activities in there as well, in case you want to kind of just try out something new. Maybe you're just like in a bit of a funk. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, I can play another game. I could go outside, but if I go outside, you might injure your arm, like Lumii here. So don't go outside.
Yeah,
Don't,
do that.
don't
Just
recommend this.
continue playing the game just in a
Learn
different way.
from her mistake.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to shout out is so there's a member of the community, Seema, as he is known. He's a notorious shitposter on the Eve subreddit. I've been baited many, many times. I get
I like how they got SEMA wrong. They put an S in there, but the subtitles just decided to completely skip over the word shit and shit posting.
halfway. It's kind of like, what's the other guy on Reddit who does the Undertaker Mankind thing?
Oh, I
Shitty
don't know.
morph.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like the shitty morph where of the Eve subreddit where you'll start reading this earnest sounding post at first, but pretty soon you realize you're getting epically trolled, and you're like, wait a minute, you scroll up
And sometimes,
And you see-
sometimes it happens, and you reach the comments without noticing.
oh no, really? I hope that hasn't happened to me.
I've absolutely read multiple SEMA posts and been like, what? And I'll go into the comments and read all this stuff, and then I'm like, wait a minute. And I have to go back, scroll up to the top, and be like, God damn it, SEMA.
I
We're gonna have to go back in the logs.
Yeah, but normally you get halfway through the page and like, wait a minute, you scroll up, it's like a SEMA post, and you're like, you fucking got me again.
Yeah.
But turns out he's not just a really good shit poster. He's sort of spinning himself off, and he's embarked on a new enterprise. He's doing a talk show on Twitch.
Yeah.
And I presume uploading him on YouTube as
that's
well,
cool.
where he's
Oh, yeah, I've
having
seen it.
actually quite sensible.
No, and this is actually true. Like, he's doing really good interviews. I remember, oh man, I saw something. I can't remember the detail
interviews
of it, but
with
yeah,
We were
no.
both
Eve on
surprised.
Netflix.
Like,
Normal
that would
things?
just be like I should post Haven, which would have been amazing.
I thought it'd
too.
be like a cross between Crash Naps and Bombeldo, but it's just a very sensible, grown-up sort of talk show.
I
talking
feel
about
like
things.
he needs to like do a new segment in his show where it becomes this crossover though. Like just like have very sensible ones, and then every once in a while do like one completely mindfuck.
Yeah.
Surprise, we're crazy now. But no, it's great. I love like I was talking about this this weekend on the Meta Show. I was we were invited by Dave Archer and the gang to by we, I mean FCK1P1 and FC Casual, and I joined along as well because I like talk shows. But I was saying like I got my start in engaging with the Eve community through a podcast, and so I love listening to these things. Sometimes at 1.5 speed or double speed, so you all sound like chipmunks. But I love hearing about like a little slice of life into what your version of Eve is, and what excites different players, what excites different groups, what they think the big important issues are, and it's nice to have nerds talking about Eve.
Yeah.
It's kind of why the show exists too.
Exactly.
True.
Yeah. So the more of those, the better.
And yeah, his ambition for this is just, he says he wants to interview 100 different EVE players from all walks of life by the end of the year, basically, by 2027. He may get there or he may not, but I mean, it's just, he's apparently got like a queue of people already sort of like booked on the show for upcoming episodes.
Yeah, he was saying
so
like
cool.
his schedule is full. Like it's almost impossible.
good
sometimes.
stuff.
He's like, didn't expect this to happen, but I'm booked until like the next X months.
Yeah,
So it's like,
it has been a really diverse lineup of people so far. So
I've been wanting to get back into interviewing people in Eve. It's just, convincing people that they are willing to talk to me is always the challenge, I suppose. You want to talk to me? I would love to do interviews.
I don't know, who knows? Maybe one of us will end up being on the show as well, talking about the show's called This Eve Life. So you could talk about your Alliance tournament victories, plural.
Yep.
You could talk about trying to master the art of
Eve 100.
one-handed Eve. That's right. I'm sure I have some dazzling accomplishment if I really thought about it.
I mean, your road to finishing all the achievements.
Oh, I could talk about the border breaker achievement
Yes.
that I got because I actually did the thing. Turns out it takes about an hour to visit every single system in a region. And I think to get the border breaker one, there was about 20 regions that you had to go through.
Nice.
So you do the math, but I got it. And that guy in the comments of this very show, like 3 episodes ago, when I said I was going to do that, and he was very skeptical that I pull it off. I did it. I'll see if I can find a screenshot.
you can look you up in game. You can see your achievement score.
That's what's actually on my character. Yeah, show info on it. Yeah.
Nice.
Do you flaunt with your achievement score? Do you
I-
do you judge people who have a lower one now?
So, true story. I remember before I said I was in that Drifter Hive fleet.
Yeah.
Just kind of like while we're idling on downtime, I'm looking at, I've got the fleet window open with all the people in the fleet, and I'm just sort of like going through them, looking at their, mousing over and see if they've got achievements that pop up.
Yeah.
And then sort of one by one, I actually started opening up their profiles and looking at their achievement scores, and I was like,
Disgusting.
You elitist.
terrible, pathetic. Like,
Only
Nice.
180.
oh, please, yeah, I'll mute you now. So just block him so I don't see his messages in fleet chat. It's like someone else has like got less than 100. It's like,
Logi that won't rep you if you have less than 200 achievement points.
I'm just going to ignore that broadcast for reps. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is Darwinism.
You should explore more of space.
I swear I didn't watch this.
Build an
first.
item.
Yep. But yeah, it's funny, because that exact scenario did happen. But yeah, so check out check out Seema's Twitch channel and his YouTube. Again, links in chat. You know how it works by now.
Yeah.
I'll probably forget 1 or 2 things I'm supposed to link for the show, but I'll do
It's
my
fine.
best.
They will remind us.
Yeah, someone will, I'm sure. But I mean, like, that's sort of like
Excuse me.
big X through all the stuff that I had on the list I wanted to yap about.
Yeah.
I do have one call out
This
that
was
we
interesting.
forgot in the little bit about the Alliance tournament. Because in the whole timeline is also the opening of the talent applications, which happened yesterday. And I mean,
Oh boy,
talent
oh boy,
is
we
hard
could
to
use some of
find.
that.
We can use some of that.
Yeah.
So please do sign up if you've like.
Oh, they're talking about like people, the commentators and stuff. All right, well, that was it for this nerds. I think we kind of just breezed through this super quick, huh? That's what happens when you do it at high speed and skip over parts that are like whatever. But yeah, so all right, I think that we did it, guys. I think that we did it. That's this week in Eve. So yeah, next week I definitely need to do a stream Monday or Tuesday to cover Vanguard a little bit more and like maybe think about my thoughts about it and like put together like a thought about it presentation. And like I said, I'm kind of thinking about switching to like a 1 day a week that I like try to lock in as like my Eve stream for like the Eve Universe show, and it makes sense for that to be more of a scheduled thing. So maybe on Fridays to kind of become like the most obvious time. Tuesday, I can always do breaking news if that ends up being a thing, but Fridays are like a good day to recap the previous week and to set people up for the rest of the weekend. So that's just what I've been thinking about, but make sure to hop in the Discord and let me know, especially if you're a supporter. I'd love to hear what you guys got to think, and I want to make work on other stuff too, not just Eve stuff, but definitely Eve stuff, and work on more, like make sure that I have at least something, like we still need to do more guides and stuff. So working all that stuff for you guys. But like I said, this last week has been crazy. Hey, Blue Jay. Quick question for anyone in chat: how to find the Aegis Squalls? The way to find them is, first of all, it's good to just wait around to see if you get a notification feed, so that way you can get one when they're very fresh and within 5 jumps of you. But all you have to do is open up the map, and then, like right now it's showing Edencom Fortresses, but if I switch to Activity, Operation Avalon, boom, then you can get the investigations. Now, once you do the investigations, you have to get into the system, and then you can use your directional scanner. Make sure you have you're showing it based on like your settings, right? Your D-scan settings has Aegis Squall in it, and then just do a wide scan to see if there's any Aegis Squalls in the system. And if you do see one within your D-scan, then switch it to 5% and start going through all the planets that are within range until one of them shows up with the Aegis Squall. Then you just drop your combat probes, put it directly on top of that planet, which it should be easy to find because your little scanner cone should be pointed at it, and then scan it. And then you should be able to lock it in pretty quickly. All right. That might be it for today, though. Thank you guys so much. I've been Ashrothi. I've been playing this game since 2010, talks about it since 2012, and I'm here to put even context for you, my fellow Barians. Thank you guys so much for coming. Make sure to check out, like, comment, subscribe, share it with a friend. Check out the merch if you want, including that new one, the As Above, So Below design. You know, all that's available to you and more. The Convocation Appearance is recruiting, etc., etc. You know that, all that stuff. I do want to give a special shout out to my top tier supporters. I know I mentioned it earlier, but one more time. My top tier supporters: 745 MPSI, Arydanika the Queen, Bad Boy Smooth, Ebo Leet, Erladis, Elange, Flash Gordon, Grims, May, Malak Starfire, Malin, Mercuton, Mayak, Morkar, Michael, Neelam, LM1, Sheesh, Susurothrens, and Rid. Thank you all so much. If you want to consider becoming a supporter of the stream, help make this possible, you can do so by just watching the stream all the way through, watching all my videos all the way through, sharing them with friends, liking them, commenting on them, giving the engagement for the YouTube gods. If you want to take an extra step above that, you can become a member. You get access to early videos, early edited videos, as well as all the emotes and chat. Or you can become a patron on Patreon, which I don't necessarily give too much for. I recommend the member. You know, if you want to donate directly, there's PayPal and stuff like that too. You all make this all possible. I very much appreciate it. All that said, I've been Ashrothi, the voice of New Eden. And until next time, I'll see you in space. See you next week.
Bring on the wrecking machine. For every city